1, 2, 3. Apple!
Yes!
Gene, thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me for the first tea time.
Yeah, this is great.
I feel really old doing this. Thanks, dude.
How long have we known each other?
Over 20 years, I think, right? Over 20 years.
Wow, that's incredible. Where did the time go?
96. Yeah, I don't know, man.
I feel like we just started. Do you ever feel like that? Or do you feel old? Like
I do feel like we just started until I try to exercise. And then I feel like an old man.
With your spider body.
Yeah, my spider body, that's right. With the big belly and thin appendages.
Yeah.
Yes.
Gene told me that's his biggest fear, is to have a spider body.
Yeah, and I kind of do now. I kind of do have a spider belly.
Otherwise known as dad body, I guess?
Yeah.
You are the father of 4 kids.
I am the father of 4 kids, yeah. They ate my dreams. But go on.
Great start. If you don't know who Gene Luen Yang is, his full author name, he is an amazing writer, artist, cartoonist, trailblazer, you would say. He's achieved things in comics that weren't even thought of when we first started comics. He's the winner of the Zurich Grant. He's 2-time National Book Award finalist. First comic ever to be nominated for a National Book Award. He's the first cartoonist to win the coveted Prince Award. 3-time Eisner Award winner. National Ambassador for Young People's Literature by the Library of Congress. MacArthur Genius Grant. Officially call you a genius. And he's the Los Angeles Book Time Prize winner for Boxers and Saints.
For Boxers and Saints.
For Boxers and Saints.
Yeah.
And he also has a TED Talk as well.
A TEDx talk, which is different.
How is that different?
Slightly different.
How is that different?
It's not like
I made my first comic when I was in 5th grade. I did it with a friend of mine named Jeremy. So I had just started collecting comic books, and then he'd been collecting forever. So we kind of bonded over our love of comics. And during lunch, we would just sit at the lunch tables and we'd come up with stories together. I'd do the pencils, he'd do the inks. His mom would take him to work and wait till all of our coworkers would go home, and then she would sneak photocopies for us. And then we sold these photocopies at school. We'd staple them together. There were no color photocopies back then. So we actually colored them by hand, each individual issue by hand, and then we sold them for 50 cents a piece. So that's how I started. And then as an adult, I don't know what possessed me to start making comics as an adult, but I started about a year after college.
How many copies did you have to color?
I don't remember. We had, I think we sold like 16 copies.
So you colored 16
So
copies.
the thing is, we didn't color it all the way in, at least not towards the end. We would just basically take color markers and we would trace the shapes. So it would just be a colored outline, We didn't color in. Yeah.
And the kids weren't mad about that?
No, they understood. It's a lot of work to color. 50 cents, dude. What do you expect?
But what I mean is, some kids got the ones that are colored in.
Oh,
and other kids
yeah.
are getting the non-colored in. Were they
Well,
mad?
that's what you get for being late, That's what you get for being late.
If they paid more, would you put more color into?
We probably would have. But nobody offered to pay more.
There's a lot of different mediums. There's films, TV, animation. What drew you to comics?
Because it's the best. It's like the best one out of all of them.
What makes it the best?
No, I think it's the level of control that you get. You get a lot of control in a novel as well, but it's the visual storytelling medium that offers the most control to the creator.
So it's not really about the medium; it's more what you can do with it.
Yeah, I think so. But I think because you get that level of control, there is a certain intimacy that you can leverage with comics. Like a really well-made comic, it reads almost like a person's diary, because you're seeing the movements of their hand on the page. That can be really intimate, I think.
Don't you find that's the same with animation?
But the animation, right? it's you're working in a team, right? So it's different. I mean, I guess I would say in any medium you can create intimate stories, but I do think it might be easier in comics because you're working at such a smaller scale. I don't know if there was one comic that convinced me of that. I do remember like I loved superhero comics when I was a kid, but I do remember being at a point, maybe in high school, where I was thinking, man, if you can't, like if a comic can't make me feel the same kind of emotions that like an animated movie or a television show can, I don't know if it's worth pursuing. I remember thinking that. And I also remember around that time, Will Eisner's, is it Eye of the Storm? Heart of the Storm? Heart of the Storm
yeah.
came out. And I remember reading that and thinking, oh, there's something here. Like I didn't feel like he got me all the way there, but I felt like he pointed me in that direction, you know? And then later, as I got older, I found other comics that I felt like really did that for me. They were really able to hit, you know, deep emotional moments, you know, or drive home deep emotional moments in really profound ways. So like Jeff Smith's Bone was like that, and a lot later, Linda Berry's stuff. I didn't read Linda Berry's stuff until I was in my mid-20s, I think. But all that kind of stuff, like a lot of the things that were coming out of the indie world, like Love and Rockets. I remember reading Heartbreak Soup and being, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And Osamu Tezuka too. When I was a little kid, I think I was just like, I think it was all superhero comics. That's all that was available, and Disney comics. But there, like the superhero comics did instill a sense of wonder in me, I think, and like those early Carl Barks comics, the Donald Duck stuff, the Uncle Scrooge stuff was great. I think that was adventure, right? So it was wonder from the superhero comics, and then adventure from the Duck comics.
Right.
Yeah.
Were there any cartoons that made you feel like that?
Yeah, I mean, I like Disney stuff. I love Disney stuff.
Yeah, you told me that you actually wanted to be in animation.
Yeah.
For comics, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What?
Yeah, that was my big dream, was to be an animator. When I was little, I wanted to work for Disney, for sure.
But like just doing animation, or like doing the story? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was unclear about who did what. I don't even know if I understood that there were different jobs within the animation industry. But I knew I just wanted to be there. I remember going to see Little Mermaid with some friends in high school, and we were watching the credits roll by, and I told one of them, I was like, I want to be up there someday. So that's what I really wanted. But that changed.
Yeah, why or how did it?
I think it changed because I realized that I wanted full control over a story. I remember taking this a little bit. I wanted control. That's what I wanted. I remember taking an animation class when I was in college. It was over the summer, and it was like a 6-week long class. And at the end of that 6 weeks, I had made 3 minutes of animation, I think. And I just thought, man, there's no way you can tell any sort of story of substance as an animated, you know, in animation if you're just one person.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I shouldn't say that's true because I have animation friends that do that. But, this might be a bit of a jump, but you know, you're married. When we first met, we were both single, wild single men.
Yeah, so wild.
Yeah.
Super wild. Cartoonists are so wild.
Yeah.
That's what we're known for.
That's our stereotype, right? Yeah.
That's right.
But now you're a married man with 4 kids.
Yeah.
That's a lot of kids. Has that changed or affected your work at all?
I think so. I mean, I think the biggest thing that affected my work is becoming a full-time cartoonist. You know, I resisted it for a really long time. I finally went full-time about 3 years ago because I mean, the amount of time that the projects were taking was just too much. It ended up overwhelming everything else. And that's been kind of crazy. I think one of the reasons why I resisted was because I liked my day job. I liked teaching, but it was also because I didn't want the pressure of having to support my family with comics. And now I have that pressure on me. It's really, it feels different. It definitely feels different.
Right.
Yeah.
But in terms of your actual work itself,
Yeah.
writing-wise, like, do you think it's affected your work?
I mean, it's hard to tell, right? I haven't released a book yet. Like I've done work for hire stuff, but I haven't done an actual book of my own since going full time. So maybe.
Yeah. Did it affect your Superman work or Avatar work?
I mean, I think Avatar. I don't think it affected Avatar because we were in this rhythm already. Superman, there's no way for me to compare, right? Superman was just a really intense.
Wait, what do you mean there's no way to compare?
Because I went full time and then I started writing Superman. So there's no like.
I see.
I'm teaching while I'm writing. You know, there's not that. And also Superman, I feel like I didn't have a ton of control over that project. So I'm not sure how much of like me ended up in that project, you know? Like parts of it, but it's not like doing your own graphic novel.
Right.
It's not even close.
And when we first met, you were doing Gordon Yamamoto and the King of the Geeks.
That's right.
And as far as I can tell, it didn't seem like you had any interest in superhero comics.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I don't think I did. I mean, it's
Did
sort
you
of.
ever
I
dream?
think a lot of us did that, right? A lot of us, we grew up on superhero comics, and then you discover this whole wide world of alternative comics, and you just kind of think superheroes are stupid. But and that's how I was in my 20s. I think I was like, there's so much you can do with comics that aren't capes, and that's what I got really interested in.
Do you think that's kind of come around? Because like now I feel like all those people that people that have the same mentality like as that now are doing superhero comics. Like you are, and there's other cartoonists that do that.
Yeah, like
Do you
Hope
think it's-
Larson. Hope Larson did Batgirl for a while.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So do you think it's come full circle where it's like we passed the rebellion stage and now it's like cool to work on?
I think so. I think we've gotten to the point where they're not mutually exclusive.
Or is
right?
it just the money?
It's not like that might be part of it too. Although money-wise, I don't know if there's more money in superheroes. Like the best-selling comics now are not superhero comics. Like Raina Telgemeier outsells Batman all the time, like every month. You know?
Right, but those books, in terms of a paycheck, are a gamble because you don't know how the books are going
That's
to do
true.
until they come
That's
out.
true.
Right? But
That's
the
true.
superhero comics, do you have
It's a page rate.
Right, you have
You're
a page
right.
rate.
You're right. Yeah, that's true.
So it's more stable, would you say?
Yeah, I guess so. So. Like especially if you sign an exclusive with one of the big two.
Yeah.
It's sort of it's like a 9 to 5 almost.
Okay. Do your kids have a particular favorite of your books, or do they want you to do a specific kind of book? Do they ask you?
They have favorite books, but none of them are mine. Yeah. The girls really love Raina Telgemeier. They really love Raina Telgemeier. And then right now, my son and I are reading Mr. Miracle by Tom King, and it's amazing. It's a great book. Have you read that?
I haven't read that yet. But
You should
should
try it.
recommend
Yeah,
to
it's
me.
so good, dude.
I'm gonna check it out.
It's so good.
But I meant among your books, do they have a favorite?
I don't know.
Or do they ask you to do?
I guess the little girls like Secret Coders. You know, my two youngest ones like Secret Coders, and they have asked me. Like I told them that the sixth one, which will be out in a couple months, will be the last one, and they have asked me to keep going with that, which is nice.
Oh, that's really sweet.
Yeah, which is nice. And then my son doesn't really say much. I don't know. I don't know what he's thinking. Yeah, and then my oldest daughter, I think she likes my books, but she definitely likes Raina more.
I'm actually kind of surprised your boy doesn't maybe gravitate more toward like the Superman books or something like that at that age. You know?
No, he definitely doesn't gravitate towards the Superman books.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he doesn't read superhero comics in general.
He does. He reads superhero
Oh.
comics. Yeah, he reads a lot of comics. He does read a lot of comics. He's read through pretty much every comic that we have in the house that I'll let him read.
Yeah, hopefully not Jason Shiga.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that might be the only comic. Like Demon might be the only comic that we have that I don't let him read. I pretty much let him read everything else.
Another distinction
Yeah.
Jason has.
Yeah,
Another
that's
honor.
right. That's
Yeah,
right.
for
I'm like, you know, he's like almost 15, so I'm like, you should be able to read everything except this.
You can read that when you're 50.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right. Even then, oof. Some of that is rough.
Now we'll be doing a deep dive on Gene Yang's work, covering every one of his books from the beginning of his career to what he's working on now. I had a technical snafu, so I lost the video for a couple of these segments, but the video does return at the end for a really fun speed round. So I hope you'll stick around. Cheers.
So your very first book was Gordon Yamamoto and the King of the Geeks. How did that all come about? And what was the experience like of being a first-time comic book publisher?
Yeah, I don't know. So the idea of it came from my own sinus issues. You know, I've had sinus problems and allergies and all that kind of stuff all the way through. So I wanted to tell a story about a kid who had sinus problems, but the sinus problems actually had like a root, like a consciousness to it, right? So it's about this kid who gets an alien stuck in his nose and becomes friends with that alien. I worked on it while I was also working as a programmer. I was working as a programmer for a small company in Emeryville. And I remember like sometimes the whole system would be down at work, like the network would be down, and I would just be drawing on a legal pad. I'd be, doing thumbnails of pages on a legal pad. And at that point, I think there was a question about whether or not I could finish the book. So I wrote it all out, I thumbnailed it all out, it was 32 pages. And, ever since I was a little kid, I've always had problems finishing projects because I'd lose interest halfway through. I remember working on that and being afraid that I would lose interest and stop. Getting hooked in with you guys was definitely helpful. Going to Alternative Press Expo and meeting other cartoonists was really helpful. And it was fun. I think I have a lot of fond memories of like being in my early and mid 20s and going to shows and not making any money, and it was just super fun.
I agree.
Going to like really grungy parties.
Do you feel like it's in retrospect that was fun, or it was
fun? It's hard to say. What do you think? You don't think you don't think it was?
In retrospect, I think it was like the time of my life.
Yeah, that was like some of my happiest years was doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
it was super fun.
Yeah.
And I think everything felt new. I think everything felt really new, and comics. Like, first of all, thinking about how far comics have come since then is crazy, right? There's no way we could have predicted that everybody would know what a graphic novel is now.
It's funny though, because that's what's happening now is what we were all working toward.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I feel like we were actually the generation that changed it.
Yeah.
Not to sound grandiose, but just in terms of the history, it's true,
yeah.
right? I mean, now libraries have a huge graphic novel section, which didn't happen when I was a kid.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And kids read tons of comics now. So many more kids read comics than when we were kids. They're not reading like superhero comics, but every kid in any class you walk into will be reading some graphic novels. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's
really
amazing.
crazy.
It's amazing. So, what did it feel like when you had that first printed comic, Gordon Yamamoto #1 in your hands?
Yeah, it felt awesome until I opened it up and I saw like a typo. But before that, it was awesome. Yeah, before that, it felt great.
Did it feel the same way as you imagined when you?
I mean, I think so. I definitely feel like it felt like an accomplishment. It felt like something I didn't know at the beginning, like when I was drawing that first page, I didn't know if I could finish it. I didn't know if I had the stamina to finish it. And holding that final printed product in my hand made me feel like I can finish things, and I think that propelled me through.
Did you think that Gordon Yamamoto #1 would lead you to where you are today?
No. I don't think I was expecting to go full time. I wasn't expecting to even make money at comics. I was planning on, my plan was I was going to teach high school or be involved in education in some way for my whole career, and then I would do comics on the side. That was always my plan.
Yeah, you didn't think it would lead to the MacArthur
all
Genius
of
Grant?
that stuff was crazy. All that stuff was just so crazy. Yeah. My life in the last few years especially has been really crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy where everyone's gone. Yeah.
It's been nuts. Yeah. It's been nuts.
It seems like these days when you think of a personal project, there's a much more grandiose idea behind it, or it seems much more, like Boxers and Saints, or even American Born Chinese, or your newest book. Like, there's seems like a grand idea that you're going after. Whereas Gordon seems like it was very almost just like an afterthought or like a whimsical kind of thing about your sinuses. But within it, you injected this like really touching story into it. Was that always the goal, or did that just happen accidentally when you started a story that was just whimsical?
I don't know what I was thinking.
Like, was the whole bully thing, all that, did that all come with the idea of the sinus stuff, or did that come after?
Yeah, it did. I think it did. It all came with it all kind of came together, if I can remember. Yeah, I mean, I had done a minor in creative writing in college. So up until that point, I'd been writing stories for school assignments. So I've been thinking about stories, and I've been thinking about story structure, even though I don't think I would have been able to articulate what made a good story and what made a bad story. But I've been thinking about it, and I think it came out of that. I was like, that was what I was interested in. I was trying to figure out a story.
Do you think you thought in terms of stories? Because since you're deeply Catholic, or the Bible story, the Catholic messages are in story form. Do you think maybe that's where it came from?
I think it is. I think part of it is. I definitely think that religions in general, every religion is essentially a community that is built around a repository of stories, right? That's just like at a very base level, that's what everything is. And I think when you are raised within a religious community, you internalize the structure of those stories, even if you don't really want to. Like I think that, like, you know, a lot of the great movie directors, you know, Scorsese, I don't even know if they identify as Catholic anymore, but they were raised within a Catholic tradition. And then same with a lot of great science fiction writers. I think a lot of them were raised Mormon, you know. And even if they've distanced themselves from that faith tradition, there's something about the structure of those stories that kind of gets into their blood.
Right. You're always kind of reading into stories, I guess.
Yeah.
Like what you do every Sunday, I guess. Right?
Yeah.
And then your second book was Loyola Chin and the San Pellegrin Order.
That's right.
Did I get it right?
You did. Yeah.
Am I the only interviewer ever to
Yeah,
get that right?
I think so. I think you're the only interviewer to ever ask about it.
I really feel like that book is, first off, it's one of my favorites of your works, and I feel like it's a kind of like a seminal one in your oeuvre. Is that how you pronounce it? Oeuvre, right?
I have no idea.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I can't pronounce French words at all.
But because that one I felt like it kind of was foreshadowing your other works, more like American Born Chinese and Box of Saints, more than, say, Gordon Yamamoto, you know. And did that one just come from a simple, funny idea as well, and then led to all this deeper
It came
stuff?
so that was that. I think the root of that was two things. One was the idea that you could control your dreams with food. I remember thinking. I remember feeling that was true. Like I would eat something and then I would have vivid dreams afterwards.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I remember thinking.
So it wasn't a story idea.
That might have been true.
Really
Yeah.
It was true. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's true anymore, but I thought it might have been true back then.
Did you had experiences?
Because I would eat something and then I'd have a dream. I'd have vivid dreams. But I think I was having vivid dreams because I was young and I was getting a lot of sleep. You know,
but you're not
like
controlling.
Yeah,
dreams,
I guess so.
right?
I wasn't controlling them, but I just thought that you could probably induce dreams by having certain kinds of foods, like really, you know, like strong taste type foods, like super spicy or super salty or something. And that's where that came from.
And then what did all the other stuff?
And then the other thing was just this idea that this definitely isn't unique to me, but it was sort of thinking about how I think all of us, like when we grow up, you know, you grow up with this value, especially in America. Yeah, there's this idea that everybody is supposed to be equal, right? And then as you get older, you realize that there's no, like I just feel like there's not necessarily a scientific basis for that. Like that, like if you were to look at us as aliens, look at our species as aliens, I think it would be very difficult to prove on just looking at atoms and molecules that everybody is equal. Because it just seems like inherent that certain people just seem to be gifted in certain ways and other people are not. And it seems like there's an inherent injustice in the way our species is constructed. That's what it felt like, right?
Yeah, sure.
And I do think I like one of my deepest beliefs is that every individual human being is equal. But I would have a hard time, like if you only gave me, if I had to prove it on the level of atoms and molecules, if I could prove it within pure materialism, I think I would have a hard time with it.
I see.
So I was like, that's what I was thinking about when I was in that book.
I see. Okay. Yeah, it's not fair that James Harden's James Harden, right?
Yeah,
and
sure,
I'm me.
Sure.
Yeah.
But like, yeah.
But I mean, a lot of it is, of course, a lot of training. But I know what you mean. There is that something that separates somebody that might have the same body as James Harden, but isn't James Harden.
Yeah. So that was one piece. The other piece about that book was I wanted to play with this idea that you could like affect
human evolution by culling the population, which is a terrible thing. Like that's the villain's idea to do that. Yeah, it's sort of like a Malthusian, is that the word?
I'm not sure.
You know what I'm talking about?
Is that
like there's a philosopher that was into this idea. I think it's called Malthusian. A Malthusian idea.
Okay.
That could be wrong. I think it was like Malthus.
Okay.
This could all be totally wrong. Like I have 2 glasses of wine.
This entire thing.
I'm 45 years old. This could all be completely wrong. Everything I'm saying.
But it also had to do with the rapture, didn't it?
It wasn't. I don't remember that part. I don't think it had to do with the rapture. No,
Oh,
it was
okay,
more
maybe.
about.
I'm remembering it wrong.
Yeah, it was more. It was more about him wanting to push a certain interpretation of evolution.
Okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
the bad guy.
Yeah. I felt like that one was not that Gordon didn't have a fun story that had a lot of meaning behind it as well, but I felt like Loyola Chin was like a huge step forward in terms of like how much there was to dig into, in the story.
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I
I feel like I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I still kind of don't, but I feel like back then, especially, I didn't know what I was doing.
Really?
I was just kind of like,
it doesn't show.
I was like, because nowadays I like outline my books, right? But back then I just kind of made it up as I went along. I think.
I see. Okay.
And it's just like, it just took forever.
Yeah. Do you have any anecdotes or anything from that book that you could tell us about?
I mean, I think we were starting to hang out, right? I think when I did Gordon Yamamoto and the King of the East #1, I was just doing it by myself. I don't think I had met anyone.
Wow. So you didn't know anybody in comics when you did Gordon?
No, not the first one. And then by the time I got into the second and the third one, I had met you and Jesse.
Originally
and
serialized.
Yeah, and with Loyola, I think we were hanging out once a week.
Yeah.
I think we had started Art Night already.
Yeah.
Which was super fun.
Yeah.
I think that was a big part of it.
We had a weekly meetup called Art Night. Started at Gene's house. And moved over to my house later, right?
Yeah.
But my house was your house.
Because
after Gene moved out.
Yeah, you moved into our old apartment. That's right.
So even though it switched to my place, it was still in your place.
It was still in the same place.
Yeah. Yeah, it was in a really ghetto part of Oakland.
It was.
Do you remember the neighborhood?
It was in a really dangerous part of Oakland. Yeah. It was rough.
The place that Gene moved to after that place had bullet holes. I remember.
Yeah,
in the window.
Too. Not our window. It was the neighbor.
His neighbor's
window.
Right?
Yeah. Bullets had gone through our neighbor's window. Yeah, and there's like a crack house across the street. I mean, Oakland's really different now.
Yeah.
It's like a foodie paradise. It's like really weird.
Even that section that we lived in?
Yeah, it's like sort of hipstery.
Wow.
It's so different now.
Wow, crazy. Yeah. I guess all the .com money.
Yeah, it's all the .com money. Yeah, all the people got pushed out of San Francisco.
Wow. Yeah. But that apartment, we had Art Night every week. We'd get together. I think I was working on Cell still? I'm not sure. No, I was...
I don't think you were working on Cell.
Yeah. I don't know what I was working on, but every week we would meet and we would give each other feedback, draw. It was you, me, Jason Shiga, Jesse Ham.
I think you were working on web stuff at that point, right?
What?
Yeah.
Like short stories, maybe?
Yeah, I think you had started... Maybe you had started Same Difference already?
Really? Oh, I thought I did.
Because you started Same Difference here, then you went to Korea.
Oh, right. I forgot about that.
And then I think you finished it in Korea? Or you finished it here?
I did finish it here at the very end.
Okay.
But most of it was done in Korea.
In Korea, yeah. But I think you started it here.
You know my career better than I do. But it's not about me. So yeah, I guess the thing that you remember most about that book is that it was the first time you had cartoonists.
It was fun.
Ideas off of.
Yeah, I think it was a lot of fun.
I see.
And I remember like Jesse Reclaw ran a comic seminar. Although I think I'd started American Born Chinese by that point.
Mm.
And I think you had gone to Korea already
I see.
by that point. I don't know if you were part of that. Do you remember that at all? Going to like his art loft?
No, that was after my time.
Okay.
I was in Korea already.
Okay. Yeah, it was like this giant warehouse.
Wow.
And all these artists lived there and they had to build their own bedrooms.
Okay.
Do you remember that?
Well, a lot of people were doing that.
Yeah.
I remember other people doing that before I left.
Yeah. So we would go there, I think once every 2 weeks for like a comic seminar.
Wow.
Or we'd do the same thing. We'd like.
But it was way more people, I guess.
It was way more people than.
And that's where you met Tin, I'm assuming.
Tin started coming to Art Night after you stopped.
Okay.
After you left.
Okay,
after you
got
left,
it.
Yeah.
Got it. Tin Pham was the collaborator on Level Up.
That's right.
Yeah. How was the reception for Loyola Chin and the Sam Poligan Order?
I mean, I think the 16 people who read it, I think 12 of them liked it, right? I mean, it was such a low. You remember we would go to like Ape and we would sell. You would sell a lot.
I don't remember
Yeah,
that.
you did.
I don't remember
you sold a lot, bro. You sold a lot.
Definitely don't
And
remember
I would sell
that.
like, I don't know, I'd sell like 12 copies or 13 copies. It was still fun. You just hang out.
Yeah. But I mean,
Yeah.
did you feel like there was a difference between when you, the readership between Gordon to Loyola? Like, did you...
Well, so Gordon I did as offset print comics, right? In the first one, I got a Xerox 4,
Right.
and the next two, I did not. The next two, I funded myself. And I lost like thousands of dollars with each one.
Wow.
So Loyola, I only did as mini comics.
Mm.
And I would take them to Copy Central, remember?
I remember
Copy
that.
Central from
Yeah.
in Berkeley. And
You would spend
and
late
get,
nights.
Like, yeah.
Central copy,
Like
stapling.
50 copies or something. We would make a ton.
Yeah.
And staple them and
Yeah.
bring them to like Ape or sell them through Comic Relief.
Yeah.
You know,
totally.
at the end, I think I sold like literally 16 copies or 15 copies
I
of
remember
each of those
days.
episodes. Yeah. I mean, each of those issues. And,
So Loyola
and you
Chin
do a
was
lot of
creation.
trading. We did a lot
Yeah.
of trading too with each
Yeah,
other.
totally.
Yeah.
So you felt like Loyola, your second comic, sold less than
Oh,
Gordon?
yeah, by a lot.
Really?
Because it was mini comics.
Wow.
You know, like Gordon, I had sold a couple hundred of these, which still wasn't awesome.
But I thought Loyola had. I thought it was reprinted by Slave Labor.
It
as an
was
actual
eventually
comic.
reprinted. It was eventually
Okay.
reprinted.
But never as individual
as a
issues.
graphic novel.
As a graphic novel.
No.
Was it in Animal Crackers, the collection?
It was
that
in Animal Crackers. as
Okay,
well.
got it.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. I forgot that it was never individual
Yeah.
issues. Yeah,
Yeah, it was always just a mini comic.
crazy. So, do you feel like discouraged that like your second one didn't sell as well as your first?
No,
one?
because I don't think. I mean, I think at that point, I was just doing it for the love of.
Yeah.
Right, because I remember like this was like late '90s. It was comics was really depressing.
Yeah.
If you looked at the industry as a whole, it was rough.
It was really rough.
Right, nobody
Yeah.
like manga hadn't hit yet. Marvel had declared bankruptcy. I remember going to those meetings at Rory Root's house. Rory Root was the owner of Comic Relief,
yeah.
like a legendary bookstore in Berkeley, and he was really supportive of local cartoonists.
Yeah.
So do you remember going to those meetings?
Yeah, I think I'm to a couple.
Yeah. And there'd be dudes talking about how like Marvel might collapse and might bring down most of the comic book stores in America,
Oh,
because
wow.
Marvel had declared bankruptcy.
Right.
Not the kind of bankruptcy where you disappear, but the kind of bankruptcy where you're just saying I ran out of money. So you're almost disappearing, right?
Yeah.
So it was rough. It was a rough
Yeah.
time.
Were those the meetings with Jimmy Robinson? And,
And then we went to like I remember going to Comic-Con down in San Diego for the first time with you,
Mhm.
and Sunday was like nobody was there. Do you
Yeah,
remember that?
yeah, totally. Well, I remember there just being nobody there, like generally. I mean, like it wasn't that busy at all.
It was never. Yeah, you could just
Yeah.
walk up and get a ticket to
Yeah.
get in.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's totally different from how it is now.
Yeah.
So in that context, I think I was probably making comics more for like you and the other guys that would show up at Art Night
Right.
than anybody else.
Right.
Yeah.
What about when it was re-released at Slave Labor?
Yeah, I mean, at that point, it still didn't get super wide distribution, but
Mhm.
it was nice to have it in book form.
But did you get some feedback after that
I got a little.
version?
I got a little bit,
Okay.
but it wasn't like.
Man, that's such a
Crazy.
shame. If you guys haven't read Loyola Chin and the Sam Poligan Order, I highly recommend it. It's actually one of my favorite comics Gene's ever done. And I think I told you at the time.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, you guys should check it out. It's really, really good. Just the concept of it, of her being able to control her dreams of food, and then the deeper story within it. It's really, really good. I think it was the book you did before American Born Chinese, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you want to see like where American Born Chinese grew out of, I think you'd be well served reading Loyola Chin. Yeah, you can kind of see a natural
Thanks.
thread. Like it's getting more and more like your work's getting more and more complex, coming from Gordon to Loyola and then to American Born Chinese. You know.
Well, thanks.
You don't feel that way?
No, I think I was just like trying to figure things out all the way through.
But do you feel that? Do you feel that like when you look back on?
Yeah, it's been a long time since
Yeah.
I've reread that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you ever reread your stuff?
If I have to, like for reading, otherwise I hate it.
Otherwise
Do you
you
like
never
it?
look
Do you
at
like
it?
rereading your stuff?
Once in a while, I'll look just to see like if I've progressed or if
Okay.
it holds up. That's
Okay.
another big thing. But I mean, I don't read it all the time, obviously. But I think
Yeah.
I've read at least once. I've probably reread each of my works. I've probably reread at least once
Really?
after like a few years just to see how it held up. But you've never looked back.
Not unless I have to. Not unless I have to
Wow.
for reading.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's how you get so much work done. Too.
No, I hate it. I hate it. It just makes me cringe. And,
Really?
oh God, yeah, I hate it.
What about it makes you?
I think when I look at stuff, I want to change it. You know what I mean?
Right.
It just
Yeah.
feel that way. Like, oh, I could tweak this or tweak that.
Yeah.
I did that as a project for Lent. So Lent is this period of time right before Easter that Roman Catholics, not just Roman Catholics, a bunch of different Christian groups observe. And normally you're supposed to observe it, like traditionally you're supposed to observe it by giving something up.
Yeah.
And then one that I decided to take on a project instead. So I started drawing this comic, which illustrates a popular prayer within the Roman Catholic tradition. And I sent it to a bunch of different Catholic publishers. Nobody wanted it until the Pope at the time declared a year of the Rosary, and then we found a publisher. I found a publisher.
Wow.
Yeah.
But like, have there ever been a comic book version of the Rosary?
I mean, maybe. I don't know. I think so the Rosary it's made up of a set of what are called mysteries, which are these events that happen in Jesus's life. And I've seen it. Like I remember visiting like Tijuana when I was in college, and I went into this church, and they actually had scenes from the Rosary drawn on the walls, and that's essentially a comic.
Yeah.
They probably wouldn't call it that.
Right.
I remember thinking it was a comic because I
Right.
read
Scott
Clouds.
Clouds.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the reception? What was the reception from Catholics?
I think it did well overall. It did well for a Catholic book. We did have, like, it was published by a group of nuns.
Gotcha.
So I have to say like the only publisher that I feel like ever kind of screwed me over was actually a Catholic publisher. It was not the nuns. It was not the nuns.
Oh, okay.
I had actually signed with this other publisher, another Catholic publisher first, and we had signed a contract, and they were supposed to send me an advance, and they never did.
Uh-huh.
It was just rough. And then I ended up signing with the nuns instead, and they were great.
Wow.
They're great.
Oh, okay. That's
Yeah.
good. That's good to hear.
Yeah,
Gives me more faith.
in nuns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did Catholics think of it? It's
Oh
kind of a
yeah,
unique thing, right? It's like a rosary.
Overall, the reception was pretty positive because the idea was that the book itself would be a rosary. So instead of like normally when you pray the rosary, you use a chain of beads.
Mhm.
So instead of using these beads, you could actually use the panels within the book.
Mm.
So the number of beads in a chain was the same as the number of panels in that book.
Okay, gotcha. So, do you think it's mostly Catholic parents giving it to their kids? Or
Yeah, I
something
think
like
so.
that?
I think so.
Christmas gifts,
Yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah.
That's cool.
Or like Easter gifts, yeah.
That must feel really good knowing that
Yeah.
somewhere in the world somebody's praying to your
Yeah, I
your,
guess so.
comic
I mean,
panels, right?
it was
that's
nice.
Crazy.
It's nice to hear from folks. Like every now and then, it's very rare, but every now and then,
Yeah,
I'm out of signing somebody opening one.
that's
Yeah.
so cool.
To
Are they still in
sign.
circulation and stuff?
Yeah. I think it's
Oh,
still in
wow.
print.
It's still in
I
print.
think so. Yeah.
That's
I think it's still in
insane.
print.
That was
Yeah.
published like after Gordon, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was published
Yeah.
in like the 90s. I don't remember.
Wow, man, that's amazing.
Yeah, but I mean, it doesn't sell very much, but it still sells a little bit every
Do you
year.
force your kids to use it during Lent?
No, we have some copies, but my kids don't read they don't. I mean, they'll read my stuff, but they don't love it. They always
You know what? I'm sure they do. They just don't want to say it to you. 'cause
I don't
you're
know,
your
dude.
dad.
They like my
They're
daughter.
really proud of you, I'm sure.
My oldest daughter will read a book of mine, and I'll say, "What do you think?" And she'll be like, "It's all right. Not as good as Raina Telgemeier, but it was all right."
But I bet when they hang out with their friends, they're like, "Hey, my dad wrote this book."
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
know.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. I'm sure they do. I'm sure they do. So after Loyola Chin, the San Pellegrino Order, you started working on your most famous work, American-Born Chinese. Seminal work in so many different parts of the world, like facets of life, I guess. Like not only in comics, but also in Asian American life. Because for a lot of people, especially when you read reviews, it's the first time they ever felt that tension between that tension of being Asian American. You're not really part of either culture, so it was, I think, one of the first works to really tackle that. And then also in the book world, because it was such a huge hit in the book world, which wasn't that common yet in comics. And I think he really blew open the doors in that way. It was the first book, first graphic novel nominated for National Book Award. Yes.
Yeah.
It was the first comic to win a Prince Award. Yes.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm interrogating you.
Yeah.
Where were you on the night? Just incredible. Like
it was a crazy year, dude.
And another thing was it put First Second on the map. Because before that, they were kind of struggling in terms of.
I mean, I was part of the second season, so they're still really young.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. What I mean is that's how so many different. It impacted so many different things when it came out. I feel like
it was just crazy. It was a crazy year. It was a nutty year.
Oh, and he you also won the Eisner, right, for it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you also won the Eisner Award for it. Like, just incredible.
Yeah, it was totally unexpected. It was just.
I knew it was going to happen. I told Gene when he was making it how amazing it was, and that he was going to win every award. Do you remember this?
I remember you being really supportive. But you were always really supportive.
I never said that to 10. But anyway. Just kidding, 10. But,
not really.
No, I'm kidding. But yeah, I mean, I completely predicted it. I have to take credit for that, at least.
You did. You were very supportive. You did say awesome, nice things about it.
And when it was in mini comics form, I had to give it to Mark Siegel, the editor. Of
it would not have gotten published without you.
That is completely untrue. But I had to give it to him, and I knew if he read it, he would love it. Yeah. And
I mean, I do think that in a lot of ways I was super lucky, right? Because I had gotten some interest from other publishers, and I do think that being with First Second at that time, because First Second was, I mean, at the time I think it was unique for this. It was one of the few companies that had a foot it had 3 feet. It had a foot in the comic book world, it had a foot in the book market, and it had a foot in the libraries.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And that's sort of what made the difference. Had I signed with like a traditional comic book publisher, I don't know.
They wouldn't have tackled all those different.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it would have been the same thing. Yeah, it would have been. It's just in a lot of ways. I just feel like in a lot of ways I was lucky. I also think that there are a bunch of books that came out before that. Like Craig Thompson's Blankets was really huge. It came out maybe 3 years before American Born Chinese.
Right. I mean, there were definitely a few.
And I do think that I think might have been the first young adult graphic novel that made a really huge splash, and made people sit up and kind of consider graphic novels in a literary way, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that if Blankets had come out a little bit later, it probably would have been submitted for a bunch of these different awards. Because back then, nobody knew to submit graphic novels to awards, right?
Yeah.
To literary awards.
Yeah.
Yeah, First Second did it because they had a foot in the literary world, right? In the book world.
And it was really visionary of Mark to start an imprint that would have both markets. Yeah. He came from the book world. Yeah, he knew how to navigate that world. You know? Unlike most comic book publishers.
That's right. Most comic book people have no idea.
You wouldn't even think to even do that.
No, you would never. Nobody even knew how to submit. Nobody knew how to submit. Exactly. Right?
They probably didn't even know the existence of these awards to begin with.
Yeah, when I got a call for the National Book Award I had heard of, but I got a call from the Prince, and I was like, what?
I'd never heard of the Prince either.
Yeah,
so you won.
Yeah. But I mean, within the book world, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just as a friend of Gene, as part of the Art Night crew, I can't tell you how excited we were. I mean, we were just so amazed, proud, called it, all that stuff. It was an amazing time.
Yeah, it was crazy.
It was so exciting.
Crazy.
We're so happy for you.
I was really okay.
Yeah, and I just can't. Just the fact that it was an Asian American story too is such an icing on the cake, just specifically for me and other Asian Americans, just because there'd never been a book like that, a comic book like that. Novels, I'm sure there were, but it's just so incredible. And the great thing about American Born Chinese is I never feel like that wave that you gave to that uplift you gave to Asian Americans, it never seems to stop, because every day there's new Asian Americans being born, so it just feels eternal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I mean, so I do think it is also like I was lucky in that I was part of like a rising Asian American culture. I do think that Asian American culture has been and is being defined right now. So I don't know, like we're in our 20s when Asian American culture started really solidifying, and now it's just all over. Like this past year has been kind of crazy.
Right. You mean in terms of like Crazy Rich Asians and stuff like that? Yeah. Well, I think you had a part in that. Totally honestly,
Yeah, well, I think we all had a part in it. For sure.
Some more than others.
I've gotten the chance to go to different schools and talk, and there have been kids who come up to me and tell me that the book meant something to them, which is
changed their life. Nice.
Yeah, they say. I mean, it's not necessarily even Asian American kids. It's often just if they're the children of immigrants, regardless of where their parents came from. It seems like there's a certain resonance.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And I think the converse is also true. Like I think sometimes I'll meet Asian American kids, and sometimes they're like the families have been here for a long time, and they also grew up in a community where there are lots of Asian Americans, where like the Asian American community is the majority. And for those kids, I don't think they necessarily resonate.
I see.
With the book.
What about actual Asians?
Actual Asians. I've talked to a couple of readers from China, like Chinese readers, not Chinese Americans.
Yeah, I'm really curious what they think.
Yeah, they. I think they see it as an oddity. I don't think they necessarily.
Does it resonate with them?
Yeah, the stereotypes, even the visual stereotypes, don't mean anything to them. They don't carry any sort of emotional weight.
Like Chinky and
that part. I read a biography of Yao Ming maybe about a year ago, and he talks about it. He talks about how, like, when he first got into the NBA, he would like dunk on somebody.
Oh, I thought you meant he was talking about ABC.
Oh, no, not talk about this. Talk about this, because he's not Asian American, right? He's Chinese. So he talked about how he would dunk on the NBA, dunk on somebody in the NBA, and then these Asian Americans would cheer him on, and then they would ask him about it in the interview after the game, and he felt really uncomfortable because he felt like they were asking him to avenge something that he just didn't have any part of. He didn't understand. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's what it feels like sometimes, talking to readers of American Born Chinese who are not Asian American, who didn't grow up here.
Right. The sales or reception isn't as strong in China then?
Yeah, it's been translated into both Chinese languages. It's been translated into traditional Chinese and also simplified Chinese. So simplified Chinese is sold in mainland China. And there's actually I have a couple copies at home, and there's this blurb on the front, and I don't even read traditional Chinese, but I definitely don't read simplified Chinese, so I never knew what that blurb said, and finally I figured it out. Somebody told me it says something like this. It says something like, this book is about how terrible it is to be a Chinese person in America. Something like that.
Wow. Jeez.
Yeah.
What did you think about that?
It made me laugh.
You didn't want to tell him to change it or anything?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I didn't tell him to change it. But it just made me laugh.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. Holy cow.
Yeah, maybe I should tell him to change it.
it's I guess there's aspects of it, but it's
there are aspects of it, but it's not
gross representation or simplification, of what the book's about.
Yeah. So crazy.
That's hilarious, man.
Yeah.
And what about in your own family?
Oh, like my kids?
Or your kids, your parents? Because you touched on your parents.
Yeah, my parents. I don't think my parents really understood.
They didn't really like the book?
I mean, they read it. They said they liked it, but I don't think that it resonated with them.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then my own kids, I think it's the same thing. I think, we sent our kids to majority Asian American schools.
Right.
So they just never felt...
But your parents weren't like, oh, this is what it was like for you going through this.
I guess so. They said a little bit of that, but it wasn't... I don't think it was a big deal. I don't think it was that big. I mean, they were happy. They were happy that, you know, I was actually finally making some money. That I wasn't losing money with every comic I published.
I'm sure they were proud of you
that.
in other ways.
But no, they're happy. They're happy. But I don't think the themes of the book necessarily resonated with them.
I see. Okay. Wow, that's crazy. Because even in like Same Difference, that one story, Super Unleaded, like my dad was so moved because I guess he just didn't know that it affected me like that. And
Yeah, I
to see it from
that.
my head, like
Yeah.
I think like really like woke him up or something.
Maybe your dad is
Yeah.
more literary than my parents, you know?
But mine was so simple and short, and so I was thinking like something like ABC must have resonated with them a lot. But I don't know. Maybe they just don't tell you. Maybe it's like
That could be true
parenting
too. That totally could be true. Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't discount that.
I should interview your parents. Actually. I'd love to interview your parents.
I don't know if I would love that.
It's not about what you want, Gene. It's about what the public hungers for. All right. Is there anything else you want to say about ABC?
I just feel really lucky. I feel really lucky it came out when it came out. I remember...
No, something you haven't said before.
Frustrated. I remember being frustrated when I was working on it because I was going so slow, you know? It took me 5
that.
years. It was like a 200-page book. It took me 5 years to do from beginning to end.
Wow.
And part of that was
that.
that, you know, I was working full-time. I was getting a master's. I got married during that time.
That's right.
I got, we had our first kid during that time. So we just had, you know, we bought a place during that time. So we just had a lot going on. But I do think now, looking back, like if I had finished it earlier, you know, I wouldn't have signed with For Second because they wouldn't have existed.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
And it's
true.
It just would have been really different.
Yeah.
So in a lot of ways, I think, I just feel lucky. I feel lucky that things happen the way they did for me.
Sometimes, you know.
Yeah. No, and you know, you bringing it to them, all of that together.
Everything. I think, you know, there's a reason for stuff to happen, you know.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah, it's just like all those pieces that fell into place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like if you'd finished it ahead of time,
Yeah.
if you'd working on it full time, you probably would have went with like slave labor or.
Yeah, I
something
would have
else.
went with a different press,
Yeah.
and the book market itself would have been really different too,
Yeah.
right? Like
Totally.
the book market in 2006 was really different from what it was in 2002.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
That's
it changed
crazy.
a lot. It was like after Tokyo Pop,
Yeah.
Comic-Con had started picking up,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. Persepolis had come out and been on the New York Times bestseller list.
Right.
You had won all 3 of your major industry awards.
Yeah.
So
Crazy.
For Second started coming after you.
And then.
None of that stuff would have happened, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So after American Born's Chinese, Gene and I actually collaborated, where Gene did the story, I did the art. It was this book called The Eternal Smile, which we won an Eisner for.
That's right.
Both our second Eisners, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, both our second Eisners. Actually, I should be careful. Vera Brosgol said her Eisner fell off the first time she spun it.
Oh, really?
The globe.
Lame.
Dum, 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 dum.
Oh, that's too bad. Oh. It's a good looking award, though, don't you think?
It's a
they
damn
did,
good looking
They did
award.
a good job.
I don't know if you can see it on camera, but yeah, they did a really good job. This was designed after Scott McCloud's Understanding Comics.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You didn't know that?
No.
There's a panel, like a full page panel with the globe.
And all the little I remember. I
That's
know
what
the
it is.
panel.
That's what that is.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So Eternal Smile. How did we first decide to do this?
So we did Duncan's Kingdom
Right.
first, right?
Right. The first story.
We did Duncan's Kingdom, which is the first story in that. There are 3 stories in there, and we did that with Image, but we retained the rights so we could redo it. And then we brought that to Mark, and he was interested, but it was too short, so we decided to add two other stories. And I think originally I was gonna get 2 other people to do those stories to draw, right? Because you were working on something else.
That's right. I forgot about that actually.
Right, and then you decided you wanted to do all 3 of the book.
Right.
Yeah. So when I had brought it to Mark and I said it would be 2 other artists, he was not into that. So he didn't sign it, or he didn't approve it until you said that you wanted to do the other 2.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't even remember that. And I think, was this the first book I did? Yeah, this was the first book I did for a second.
It was.
Yeah, that's right. Because the first book I was working with for them, I couldn't finish the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really too bad. But I completely forgotten about that, actually, that it was going to be 2 other artists at that point.
Originally.
What the hell compelled me to want to draw both?
I don't know.
I know what it was. I actually love the stories. That's what happened. No, seriously. But I remember when I was doing the 3rd story with the watercolor pages, I was like, why did I do this?
I remember
This
that
is
too.
taking
I remember that too.
forever.
I remember. Yeah, I remember you were super late.
I
But
was
they
late
didn't
by-
care.
I was late by, I think it's like 6 months.
Yeah,
I
something
think
like
half
that.
a year.
But I don't think they cared. Right? I
think
mean, they
cared
kind
a
of
little bit,
cared.
probably.
They kind of cared, but then it looked so good that they didn't
Oh,
care.
thanks, man. But
No, those pages
Yes.
look great.
it was, yeah, I'm never doing a comic in full watercolor ever again. That was really hard.
That was amazing.
Oh, thanks, man.
Those pages look great.
But in terms of the writing, the 2nd story was a takeoff on DuckTales. How did you conceive that whole story?
Well, I've always loved Carl Barks. I've always loved Don Rosa and the whole like Disney Duck universe.
Right.
So we did the same thing, but with frogs, right?
Right.
It was about a greedy frog,
Yeah.
sort of like a frog version of Uncle Scrooge.
Yeah. Grandpa Greenbacks.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Grandpa Greenback. So it was
Yeah.
fun. It was fun to do. He has
Yeah.
a little money bin that he swims in.
It's fun for you. Yeah.
Yeah, super fun for me. Yeah, that's when I realized, like, working with you on this, I realized, man, I really like writing and having somebody else draw.
It's the best.
It's the best.
It is. It is really the
Yeah,
best.
you just like send off a script, and then every few days you get these beautiful pages in your email. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, I remember in the second Toon book series of mine, I had an artist draw it, and I was like, why did I do this from the beginning? This is amazing.
Yeah, it's so awesome.
And then you've been doing it ever since.
I have been doing it ever
Yeah.
since.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Standing on the backs of all these artists.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, sooner or later they're gonna grow an AI artist in a jar, and that'll be my dream come true. I want to buy like 4 or 5 of those jars, create my own little sweatshop.
Or maybe they invent cloning by that time. You can just clone yourself and then have them
Yeah.
draw everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I feel like my own clones would be kind of lazy. They wouldn't want to draw my stuff.
Well, mine would definitely be lazy.
I
So
don't know about
I
that.
think you should clone yourself. And then the third story in Eternal Smile was about a secretary who gets one of those Nigerian prince letters asking for money, one of those money scam emails that were popular in the early aughts, right?
Yeah, and then she responds.
Right.
She responds, and you can't figure out why she keeps responding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And was that just from you getting those emails that inspired the story?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't even know. They don't do that anymore, do they?
Yeah, I don't think they do.
The Nigerian prince scam has kind of run its course, right? I don't think it's.
I think it's
anymore.
too popularized. Right?
Yeah, I think everybody knows.
I think everybody found out through our book.
Oh, that must be it.
Yeah,
you're right.
yeah,
You're right.
yeah.
You're right. That's exactly it.
Which of the 3 stories do you like the most?
I think as a whole, like a completed work, I do think the third one is the strongest.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think?
It's my favorite too.
Yeah.
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 I love all 3 though. I gotta say,
Yeah.
they're so different. It's hard to pick one as the best.
Yeah,
or favorite.
and that's what people are most impressed with when I show it. Is that they can't believe that it's the same artist.
That's not the most.
It
impressive
is.
part,
It's
I'm
true.
not
It
sure.
looks really like every story looks so different.
I think they're most impressed by how you tied in the
No.
theme. Tied in the 3 theme. I mean the single theme into the 3
Yeah,
stories.
especially the last one too, because in the last one you actually use 2 different art
Styles.
styles. Yeah, I guess the same drawing style but different coloring styles.
I think the most.
Have you done that before? Again, I mean the not the watercolor one, but the other one, like the monotone.
No,
Have
I've
you done
never. I've never.
You never did
Even
that
that style took a lot of time.
Did it?
Yeah, because all the shading involved.
Yeah.
But man, I love drawing that story though because the art was so unique, or like just unique to at least me. You know, I've never done a style like that.
Yeah.
I'm usually more representational
Yeah.
than cartoony.
Did you like doing that? You like doing the cartooning?
Yeah, I mean, it was. I feel like I got to use more of an artistic interpretation of stuff. I actually love drawing. Shoot, this will give away the twist, but I love drawing the main antagonist. Designing that character, like drawing from a lot of those type of guys that I saw in real life.
Yeah. We knew a lot of those type of guys.
Especially you. You worked in the computer.
I did.
field.
I did.
Yeah. Did Did you get any response from people who actually answered a Nigerian email and got scammed or anything? No?
No.
Never got any feedback like that?
No, I think that part of that is like, I mean, graphic novel readers at the time, at least, were on the young side. I don't know if young people responded to that.
Yeah.
Did you think that they're actually going after like retirees and stuff?
Yeah, of course. It's old people that answer this.
So that's fine.
So after The Eternal Smile, you did a comic for the New York Times.
I did.
Right? That's
I did.
incredible.
Yeah, it was really crazy.
It was
fun.
serialized every Sunday.
Yeah.
Right?
So they used to do that. It was called Prime Baby. They used to serialize comics, short stories in their Sunday magazine. And I was the last one. They canceled the feature after me.
But weren't you also the first one?
I was not the first one. No. It was like Jason. You know?
Jason. Yeah.
Jason.
From Europe.
And I think Gabrielle Bell did one. I forget. There are a few. There are like 4 or 5, and then they canceled it after me.
Well, you gotta go out when the audience wants more, right?
I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't know if that's what
you
it
gotta
was.
go off you gotta go at the top.
Like, this is it.
You gotta go at the top.
Nobody's reading this. We should just stop.
Well, I'm gonna think of it as you gotta go on the top.
Well, thanks.
Leave the audience wanting more. You know.
Yeah.
Well, I loved it. I loved it enough so I colored it, Prime Baby, and it's probably the only time I'll ever be in the New York Times. So thank you, thank you for that, Gene.
No, that's not true. That's not true.
But yeah, it was. I love that comic so much. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the premise?
Yeah, the premise is that there's this little boy who gets a baby sister, and he hates this baby sister. So he tries to prove to his parents that she's actually an alien. And it turns out she's not an alien, but there is something like science fiction-y about her.
The reason it's called Prime Baby is because the baby speaks in prime numbers.
Yeah, the baby speaks in prime numbers.
Ingenious, yeah. It's so smart, so unique.
It was inspired by some of the tension that I was seeing at home, because that was right around the time that my daughter was born.
My second
child.
One son.
Yeah. I had a baby girl and a little boy who liked her at first until she started like touching his stuff, and then he was not as fond.
Well, I thought you captured that brother-sister dynamic or sibling dynamic really well.
Well, thanks.
That's what makes the book so good.
It was fun. It was fun to do. It was really fun to do.
Yeah. And then after the New York Times was collected by First Second.
It was collected by First Second.
Yeah. Did you get any responses from like parents and stuff?
Not a ton. Kids? I don't know if that many people read that book.
Even during the New York Times? People must have read it in the New York Times.
Maybe
when they were reading.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't get a ton of response for that book in general.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I think it'd make a great movie too, like a great short film or something.
Thanks.
Yeah. Have you ever thought about directing a film?
No.
Never. It's just not in your interests or
That's
wheelhouse.
No.
Okay, gotcha.
No. But you really like it. You like it better than comics? Directing film?
Of course. Really? No. It's not. I still love comics. I love the art form of comics. It's just the lifestyle. It's just not in me. You know, because comics, it's not just you need the skills to do it. You need a very specific kind of personality. You need to be the kind of personality just can sit at a desk day in, day out, you know, and just draw for hours and hours. And it's just not me. I like running around. I like working with people. That's another big thing. You're always alone, you know?
Yeah, you're always alone.
You're always alone. And it's just not... I was starting to go crazy doing comics, you know? So it's just that I want to tell stories, but I want to do it with people.
Yeah.
You know, and work on different departments. And you get to travel, you know, if you're shooting in a different location. Like, you get to meet so many new people every time you work on something. So it's more because of that I love film. And also that I love movies, of course. But more than, like, say, I like movies more than comics, you know?
I see.
Yeah,
I mean, I think for a long time...
I say that with you, but with my movie friends, I tell them I like movies.
Yeah, I think for me... For so much of my career, I was both teaching and doing comics, and that was really nice.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? I've been feeling it. So I left my teaching job maybe 3 years ago, and I've been feeling it. I've been feeling like the sitting by yourself in an office kind of thing.
Right. In it's not even that bad for you because you have a family.
Yeah.
You have kids that you see.
So I have I live in a noisy house.
Yeah.
Which is helpful.
I'm utterly alone. That's why I can't do comics.
Yeah, I see. So you would actually go like weeks.
I'm just kidding.
You would actually go like weeks without seeing somebody?
Yeah, like especially when I was working on this book. When I was in Portland. And, didn't have too many friends there yet because I was pretty new to the city. And it was just... I just think the comics lifestyle is just for a very specific kind of person, and I'm just not that person.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's why I really admire cartoonists, like the ones that can do it. You know, because it's like being a monk, you know, or like a priest or whatever. Like you have to have so much mental tenacity to just sit there and.
You've done a lot of comics, dude.
Yeah, I've done enough, more than enough. Wait, let's get back to Prime Baby. Did you ever let your eldest son
He read it. He read it.
Did you read it as an older kid, or
He read it as an older kid.
What did he think?
Yeah, he thought it was okay. I mean, I don't think any of my kids really like my comics that much.
You already said this.
Yeah, but
I'm
it's
sure that's
true.
not true. What did the daughter think?
Okay. My daughter, same thing. She thought it was funny.
Okay, that's good.
It's not as good as Reina Telgemeier stuff. You know?
You said that like 3 times in the sentence.
But it's true.
What is this, a promo for Reina
That's
Telgemeier?
what they say. Dad, your stuff is alright. It's not Reina Telgemeier, but...
Oh man, I think Reina owes you some royalties with all the props you give her, which she totally deserves, of course.
Yeah.
But,
I see why they're fans.
yeah, she's
I'm a fan.
incredible. Yeah. But wait, there must be some anecdote from Prime Baby, right? We can't just leave it like just the.
Oh, from Prime Baby? I don't know. I mean, it was fun to it was such a short thing. It was like, when it was in the New York Times, it was like 8 pages or something, 9 pages. It was not very long.
But the whole book was a lot longer than that.
Yeah, but that's just because they took each of the pages and they cut it into 3.
Oh,
you know what I mean? So it's the same length. It was super short. Okay. It was like a novella.
That's why the book was like.
Yeah. So there was not a lot to read.
Got it. So it's more like a short story.
Yeah, it was like a short story. It really was a short story.
Right.
Yeah, it probably should have been included in an anthology as opposed to
like Animal
being
Crackers
published
or something. Whoops.
On its own.
We just killed Jesus Gene. This is Can you see this from the close-up camera?
Yeah, I don't know. This is a really crazy thing that they did.
Yeah, what
during my ambassadorship, they made these little standees of me, and now it's become a thing because the person who's the ambassador after me, her name is Jackie Woodson. Amazing. She is at least among the most decorated American children's book authors, if not the most decorated. She just won a ton of awards.
And she got one of these too?
Yeah, she was like, "Am I gonna get a standee?" And I did one for her. I drew one for her. Yeah.
Oh,
I'm a fan of her.
Oh,
so
that's
I drew
really,
one for her.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but I think it's going to be a thing now. So from now on, every national
You're
ambassador is going to have a little standee. Maybe if they ask me, I'll do it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, when I'm the national, please make me.
I will. I will absolutely draw you with your spider body.
By that time, I probably will have a spider body. Yeah. But yeah, this. When did they make these?
It was in 2016.
Okay.
So it was Macmillan's idea as the publisher's
right.
idea. It was not my idea.
So I've had this for 2 years, and every Christmas I put it on the top of my Christmas tree.
It's so ridiculous. So ridiculous.
Yeah, I worship at the house of Gene Yang. So nothing else about Prime? What did it feel like being in the New York Times?
It was awesome. My dad was really excited.
Yeah,
he bought a copy of it.
Yeah.
I think he probably still has it somewhere in the closet. No, it was awesome. It was awesome.
What inspired the story? Just having.
It was the kids.
Yeah.
It was really the kids.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I had actually originally planned, proposed a different story, and they were like, "No."
What was that story?
It was. The vague outline was a guy dealing with porn addiction. And they were like, I don't remember the details. It had like a fantasy element to it.
That's amazing.
And they were like not into it. They're like, no, let's not do that.
Why did they do
I
that?
don't know. They wanted it more family friendly.
Dude, I'm so bummed.
Yeah. I don't totally remember what there was a fantasy element to it, but I don't remember. Like a not like a porn fantasy element, like a fantasy element to it. I don't know what it was.
Right, like a magical realist.
Yeah.
Dude, Gene, you doing a porn addiction story? That is incredible. Am I ever going to be able to read this story?
Well, I barely remember it. Maybe I don't
Most
know.
importantly, are you addicted to porn? Is this a slice of life?
Well, I think dudes kind of. Most dudes at least go through a phase.
Yeah, of course.
Right?
When you're young,
and you have to figure that stuff out.
Yeah,
you have to figure that stuff out. Otherwise, it's. I mean, I think I have an addictive personality in general. Where if I open a bag of chips, I have to eat all of it.
Or when you start a movie, you have to finish it.
Yeah, right? So I think that stuff like porn is just really bad for me.
I see.
You know, it's like if I start it, it'll just...
consume you.
Yeah.
So was the story about that? Like
it wasn't about me personally. It was sort of more...
But about that theme?
It was about the theme. It was about the theme. I don't totally remember how it worked out. It was like, yeah, I just remember there was a fantasy element, and like when he did things in the fantasy world, it would actually translate to him doing things in the real world. I forget.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can I kickstart this to make you finish this?
Well, I have to think about it. I have to think about it to see if I can remember what the outline was. But I had just proposed it, and they're like, no, that's not. Let's do something else.
Wow, that's so awesome. And then were they a lot more enthusiastic?
Yeah, but I wonder if they actually liked Prime Baby or if they were just happy I wasn't doing the other story. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Wow, that's incredible. Because, like, you know, it's one thing if, you know, Robert Crumb does a story about porn addiction. But Gene Luen Yang doing a story about porn addiction. Would Robert Crumb
really do a story about porn addiction, though?
No, but I mean, like, you know, it's not... It wouldn't be surprising.
It'd be like porn use. Yeah.
Right. Oh, that's a great anecdote to go over. That's amazing. That's a scoop. That's a scoop for sure.
The next book I did was Level Up, which is with a really good friend of mine, Tim Pham. We taught at the same school together at Bishop O'Dowd High School in Oakland, California. And he's also a cartoonist. So he actually writes and draws his own books, but we decided to collaborate on this one book.
How did you guys decide to collaborate?
I mean, he
no one else could do it?
No, he did this book called Sumo, right?
Right.
That I thought was really well done.
It's a great book.
And I really liked the way he drew it. And I was like, maybe we should do something together. Except I wanted to letter it because I thought his lettering was atrocious.
Wait, say that again?
I wanted to letter it. Because I thought his lettering was just it was barely readable. You know what I mean? It was like barely legible.
Wow.
So I was like, we'll do it. You draw it. And the original plan actually was he draws it and I ink it and I letter it. So I figured,
I see.
You know,
you could at least read the book.
Yeah, that was the idea. But then the crazy thing about that was we put in a proposal. We formatted our proposal as a mini comic. We sent it in for second. We got signed to do it. And this was before American Born Chinese came out.
Wow.
So I knew at least I would have, no matter, even if American Born Chinese failed, I would have a second book.
Gotcha.
But the reason why it came out after Eternal Smile was that, we started writing it and drawing it. And then we got to the very end. We got to like 5 or 6 pages before the end. And then the editor calls us up and goes, this book is just not working.
I remember this. Yeah, I remember this.
Book, I'm sorry, but this book is just not working. So I had to start over
from the beginning.
Yeah, so the second pass I didn't ink.
Jeez.
Because I was doing something else. Yeah, I didn't ink. So he just did it. Because he actually decided he wanted to do the whole thing in watercolor too.
That's right. Right.
So we redid the whole story. And I remember that was like, I went through a lot of like self-doubt over that. Because I was really worried. Like I remember I was turning in drafts. And I was showing Tin first, and I was showing Mark.
Yeah.
And every time I turned one in, I was like, this is just garbage. And Tin would say stuff like, yeah, you're right, this is garbage. You gotta try again.
But then doesn't Tin always say that, and then so you
He kind of does,
confused?
yeah. He kind of does.
Yeah.
He kind of does. But in the end, it turned out fine. It came out from first second. It did well enough that they did a Square Fist edition, which is something that they do if a book sells past a certain amount. And then
wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I think that's how they make that decision.
I remember it's like a library version, right?
Yeah,
something
sort of, or like a mass market. It's just a cheaper version.
That's what it is. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's like a lower cover price. So it did well enough to do that.
Yeah.
The thing that makes me the most mad about that book is that Tin is like, when he wants to draw really well, he can.
Right.
But he doesn't always want to draw really well. So some of those panels were awesome. They look gorgeous, perfectly. They're just beautifully textured watercolor panels. And then other panels just look like garbage. They just look terrible.
Tim might watch
horrible.
This,
It's fine. But the editor understood that. So the editor said, can you please redraw these panels? And it was like, I don't know, it was like 15-20% of the panels. So he did. Wow. He redrew them. He redrew them. But, it was on watercolor. Right. It was on watercolor. And Tin was so lazy, he didn't even bother finding the same watercolor paper.
Oh, geez.
So he would just find something with a different tooth. And he'd draw the new panels on that. And he would do a good job.
Sure.
But then he would just use Photoshoppy to copy and paste it into the original files.
Sure.
Right? And I just thought, it didn't look the same. It didn't look the same. Right. And then he turned it in, it got printed, and we'd read these reviews, and they would say things like, at first when I read Level Up, artist Tim Pham's drawing seemed really naive and childish. But then I realized that he even uses the texture of the paper to express the story because it varies from panel to panel. And I just want to say,
genius.
that was freaking yeah. And he loves that. He loves those reviews. And I was like, he did that because he's lazy, man. That's not expressing anything.
That's incredible. Hey, he added to the story value of the.
Yeah, I guess so. Oh,
but isn't that a perfect sample of how people read into books?
Yes.
You know,
it
like
totally
when we
is.
took English classes, and you know, the English teacher would read into all those things, like in the Pearl or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
I swear, half that stuff, the author, there's no way they thought of that stuff. Or
Yeah, but sometimes it could still be valid, right? It could be that the author put something in on accident or even subconsciously, and then that's what resonates with the audience.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of the times when they do those critical dissections, their supposition is that the author meant to do that.
Yeah,
it's always like that the author meant to do that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, what did the author mean when he did this? Right? That's how your teacher always asks you.
Yeah.
But half the time, I don't think they meant it.
Yeah,
I think people were just reading into it,
yeah.
which is great for us as authors.
Yeah, I guess
You know what
so.
I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was the thing that wasn't working that they made you change when you had to redraw the whole?
It was
book?
it was not a great story. I agree with them.
What was
looking
some? Do you
back.
remember any detail?
Like one of the things was we didn't have the angels right.
Wasn't there like four?
Yeah, it was four angels. It was four angels,
Yeah.
and in the published version, this is a little spoilery.
Hey, just need to jump in here to give a spoiler warning. Gene's about to spoil the biggest twist in the story. So if you're planning to read Level Up and you don't want it to be spoiled for you, then I would skip ahead in the video for about a minute and you should be good.
But in the published version, they look more like Sanrio angels, so they were kind of cute.
Right. That's
And then it turns out that they're the four ghosts from Pac-Man.
Right. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
but in the original version, they looked more like traditional angels, so they look like human adults,
Right.
which is not an appealing look.
Yeah.
And then they turn out to be like these demons. It just didn't make sense. It didn't make sense at all.
Right.
It didn't carry through with the theme. There's a theme of video games all the way through. And it just
Right.
didn't carry through.
That's right.
And then the final scene was like a dance off at Dance Dance Revolution in the original, which
Oh
didn't
wow,
work either.
interesting. Yeah, that's super different.
Yeah, it didn't work.
What was the climax in the published version?
In the public version, it was he realizes that like these ghosts, you know, these Pac-Man ghosts are actually ghosts of his father's expectations of him.
Yeah.
And then he's
That's right,
he's
that's
the
right.
he's the
Yeah.
little yellow man trying to outrun his father's ghosts.
Right. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
So
brilliant.
it ended up. No, I'm glad they asked us to redo it. I felt like it worked better.
You didn't actually tell us the medical part.
Oh yeah. I mean the whole thing is about a kid who feels like has to go to medical school, right? And these
His parents
angels,
are pushing.
these angels
Yeah.
come and tell him that he has to go to medical school, and then he really wants to play video games. He wants to become a professional gamer.
Right.
So it's loosely based on my brother. My brother never wanted to be a professional gamer, but he also loves video games, and he is a medical doctor now.
Right.
So he went to med school, and he would tell me these stories about what he would have to do at med school,
Right.
and that was the origin of that.
There was a scene, wasn't there, with Pooh? In the
Yeah.
class?
I mean the whole thing was sort of. It came out of a just a conversation we had. You know, he was in medical school and he calls me up and he goes, you know, I'm thinking about becoming a gastroenterologist, which is a doctor that specializes in the digestive tract.
Right.
And I said, why? That's gross. You're gonna be like elbow deep in poop your whole career.
Yeah.
And he said, well, the other day I had to do a colonoscopy for like an assignment, and it was like playing video games up somebody's ass.
Those are exact words.
Yeah. And I was like, that's my book.
See, kids, stories can come from anywhere.
They can come from anywhere.
Yeah,
That's right. They
yeah.
can come from anywhere.
So Gene is also famous for writing the continuation of the Avatar animated series in comic book form through Dark Horse, right? And you wrote that in conjunction with the creators,
I did.
right?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Well, first of all, it came about because somebody else turned it down. Can we talk about that?
Of course.
Like, why'd you turn it down?
I had other projects I was working on. I couldn't just drop all my deadlines to work on it. So yeah, it was with a heavy heart that I had to pass on it. But I was more than happy to ask them to ask you to do it because
It was fun.
Because we were both huge fans of Avatar.
Yeah, I mean, I
before
became
they
an
asked
Avatar
us.
fan because of you, because you lent me
I sent you
those
the, like,
DVDs,
Yeah.
of the first season.
But that's why it was so perfect, because when I passed, I knew Gene was a fan because we watched it together and talked about it together and knew that Gene loved it. So I think it was a perfect marriage, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of fun. It was also because we had done those protests about the movie, right?
Yeah.
That's how the editor at Dark Horse even knew to approach us, I think. Because both of us had
that's right.
so mad about that movie.
Yeah. We're talking about the M. Night Shyamalan version of The Last Airbender, the film.
The whitewashed version.
Yes, where all the central cast was cast.
I guess it's the yellow face, right? It's the yellow face.
Yeah. So we were really upset about it. We wrote a public. We both each wrote a public piece about why we thought it was wrong.
Yeah.
And we started a petition and got a lot of people to sign it, and we sent it to the studio to see if they would, just see why it was wrong.
Yeah.
Obviously, it didn't happen, but because of that, I guess maybe it did catch the attention of Dark Horse.
It did, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's why they approached us. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe they didn't even know we were writers.
Yeah, I don't know. No,
kidding.
they did. They'd read. I know they'd read their stuff before.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah. So how was it working with the two creators?
It's fun. They're awesome.
Yeah.
They're great. I mean, it feels really different from working with someone who's not a cartoonist, right? Or not an artist.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know if they consider themselves cartoonists, but they're both animators.
Yeah.
And they both they're obviously great at story.
Yeah.
So it was awesome. It was great.
Yeah, that's great.
How has been the fan reception? Because you're continuing the actual show.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of pressure.
I mean, I would say overall, I have felt supported by fans, but I do get Avatar hate mail for sure. Yeah. In the first arc, we had Zuko and Mei break up. They're one of the couples at the very end of the series, so we had them break up, and I got like this long email from what do they call them? A Maiko shipper, right? And they talked about how I had ruined love for them. I had destroyed love by having these two characters break up. I got another one really early on from somebody who said that he was a Fire Nation military historian, and that in the comic we had gotten the helmets wrong of the Fire Nation. And I was like, I didn't even draw those helmets, man. Why are you writing me? Write the artist.
They're in Japan.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they're in Japan. Yeah.
So do you think they got hate mail too? The artists?
I don't know if they did.
Okay.
Because they actually, they don't even read English. The scripts would have to go through a translator. I can't imagine the translator taking the time to translate hate tweets. and to be honest, I think that for the most part, everybody loved them. Not everybody loved me as a writer, but everybody loved them as a writer. They're great. They're amazing.
They're a really good team, man. They're really good. What about on the flip side? Were there things were the fans really happy with what you did with Zuko's mother?
Yeah, I think so we revealed the fate of Zuko's mother in a story called The Search, and the creators of Avatar, Brian Konietzko and Mike DiMartino, they were involved with the comics all the way through, but they were especially involved with that one, especially Mike. Mike and I worked really closely together to do that. And I think out of all of the stories that I did within the Avatar universe, that was definitely the hardest one because there's just so much there.
Yeah.
And we do get some hate mail for that, but for the most part, I think most of the reviews are positive. And
yeah, they're really good, on Goodreads and stuff.
Yeah, I feel really grateful. I feel really grateful that
you get
that
to be
people,
part of that lore.
Yeah, that people liked it, and that it's it's part of the canon.
Yeah,
I felt grateful.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Gene's next work was a magnum opus called Boxers and Saints, and it was about the Boxer Rebellion in China, right?
It was.
Do you want to tell us more about that?
Yeah, so it's about this war, the Boxer Rebellion, that was fought in China in the year 1900. The reason why I was interested is that I grew up in a Chinese Catholic community, and in the year 2000, the Catholic Church canonized a group of Chinese saints, which is sort of like the church's way of honoring certain members, certain lives of its members. It was the first time Chinese people had ever been canonized. So the church that I grew up in was kind of freaked out about it. They were really happy. And then I started looking into the lives of these Chinese saints, and what I discovered was that many of them had been killed during the Boxer Rebellion, and they were killed because back then, if you were Chinese and you embraced a Western religion like Christianity, you were seen as a traitor, right?
Yeah.
So they were killed for being traitors. And the more I read about it, the more I just thought it was so fascinating. It was like this tension between East and West, and then the Boxers themselves were super interesting. There were these like mostly teenage boys who were really mad about these foreigners coming into China, right?
Basically erasing the culture, right?
Yeah. They're just angry. They're just angry about like the foreigners were not. I don't think they were outright colonizing, but they were essentially colonizing.
Yeah.
Right. It was like China wasn't never an official colony, but the relationship was very similar.
Yeah.
Right.
For all intents and purposes,
Yeah.
they were
Yeah.
colonizing. Yeah.
Yeah, and so these boys were really pissed off about it. They had no military training. They were really poor, so they basically came up with this ritual, almost like a religious ritual, and they believed that when they went through it, they would get superpowers. You know, like these Chinese gods would descend down from the skies, possess their bodies, and give them superpowers. So when I read it as a comic book fan, I was like, it's like ancient Chinese Shazam. That's what that is.
Right.
You know, that felt such a familiar dynamic.
Yeah.
So I wanted to do a story, and I couldn't decide who I sided with more.
Yeah.
Which is why there are 2 volumes.
Right. So the Boxer side, you follow the Boxers, and on the Saint side, you follow
Yeah, the Chinese Catholics who are killed by the Boxers.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, everybody gets killed, but
Right.
because historically that's what happened.
Right. Did you feel like it was almost kind of like a symbolism for your own struggles in terms of being
I think so.
a Chinese American Catholic?
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think so. I feel like I have an uneasy relationship with all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In what way?
I mean, I think there's an inherent. Maybe it's not inherent. There's a contradiction there, right? There's a contradiction in being. I think there's definitely tension in being an Asian American. There's always this tension between Eastern and Western ways of seeing things, right? And then when you are part of a Western faith tradition like Catholicism, that just sort of deepens that tension, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know. As a Chinese person, you know, seeing what the Christian missionaries did, like the colonizing aspect, like does that make you kind of maybe not want to be, not wanting to be Catholic? Maybe that's too far, but didn't it cast a lot of doubts?
No, I thought about that. Yeah, I've definitely thought about not being Catholic multiple times.
Oh,
in my
okay.
life. Yeah, for sure. But I think. So I guess this is the question. Is it possible for someone who adopts another culture's faith tradition, is it possible for them to have an authentic experience of the numinous within that, right? And I think the answer has to be yes if you look at the history of China, because what happens is, you know, I read a bunch of books about the Boxer Rebellion. The one that was most influential on the book that I did was called The Origins of the Boxer Uprising. And he just goes through all these different theories and ideas about what happened. And he felt like a lot of the reason why the missionaries were successful was, first, they recruited people who were outsiders within Chinese culture. And then they also recruited a lot of criminals. Like if you converted Catholicism, you were no longer under the Chinese justice system. You were actually under the Catholic justice system.
I see.
So criminals would take advantage of the language differences.
Wow.
And kind of stick in. And I would say not all missionaries were terrible, right?
Yeah.
Some of them went in with good intentions. Some of them were definitely terrible. But it was just funky. So the author of that book, his theory was that that's why they were able to get these Chinese converts, was because of these dynamics.
Right.
But then after, and it's true, I think it's definitely true. But then after Mao came to power, they basically pushed all of the missionaries out, and they kind of outlawed Christianity, right? And they did something similar in Japan. And when they did that similar thing in Japan, Christianity essentially collapsed.
I saw Silence. It kind of
Yeah,
that, right?
yeah, exactly. But when they did it in China, Christianity didn't collapse. It actually went underground, and people continued to, practice the faith underground. So that's curious. If they were only converting, to avoid justice and for these more superficial reasons, I feel like when you're in a situation where you have to give up that superficial thing just to live, you would do it.
Yeah.
So it makes me think that there's something more authentic going on. They had found something there, right? That was real. They had found, even though the situation itself was horrid, they had found something there that was real. Right. And I think
that's a good point.
I don't know. At the risk of speaking for people who are not me, I think that dynamic may be there in the faith lives of like non-white Christians in America too.
Huh.
Like people, like if you look at the history of belief in America, that Christianity has been used in these really terrible ways.
Right.
So then how come there's still like black churches? How come there's still Latino churches?
That's interesting. Sure.
But it's because there is something else there too, right? It's a really, I think the human relationship with maybe religion in general is very complex.
Yeah.
And it's hard to just chalk it up to just one thing.
Right. Did the Catholic readers of Bach's and Scenes catch onto that, or were they more maybe repulsed by?
No, I think most American Catholics have a complex relationship with the church.
Okay.
Like how most of us have like really complex relationships with our parents.
Sure. Yeah.
We're kind of, it's not all positive, right? I feel like it's the same.
I see.
It's the same with the church. Yeah.
Okay.
Especially nowadays.
With the Almighty Father, I guess.
Yeah. It's the same. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's true. Yeah, with all the controversies and stuff.
Yeah.
Sure.
With a lot of the craziness.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you consider this your hardest book to?
It was my hardest up until the one I'm working on now, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Because it seems like it. I mean,
it was my hardest.
It's historical. There's so many characters. You're looking at both sides of things. Like, it just seems so daunting. Like when you were working on it.
Yeah, it was my hardest.
Yeah.
Up until this one. Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. You did a splendid job. It was amazing.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, I think it's right up there with ABC for me.
Well, thanks.
Some of your best works. Yeah, just the breadth of what you've done. Like, you've done like an autobiographical that's mixed with magical realism. You've done historical fiction. You're doing nonfiction, your newest book, right?
Yeah.
You've done superhero comics. Like, seems like you've done it all. Like, is there any other genre that you haven't done?
I want to do rom-com.
A rom-com, really?
I want to do rom-com at some point. Yeah. I haven't
what about
figured it
porn?
out
Since
yet.
you brought up porn.
I don't want to do porn.
Oh, okay.
But I do want to talk about. I feel like I've always been a little prudish, at least as a cartoonist.
Sure.
And part of that I'm sure is my, being Chinese and all American and also being Catholic. I think.
And a father. Yeah.
Being a dad. So I always thought dealing with. Like human sexuality in some way is something I want to do before the end of my career.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
in a rom-com would be fun.
Yeah,
would be fun.
Yeah, they do that all the time.
It'll be a little lighter.
Yeah, like Harry Met Sally or
yeah,
one of those kind of movies. Yeah, for sure. I can't wait to read that. That sounds amazing. Is Teresa gonna like that? Your wife?
I don't know if she likes a lot of my comics either. She's done this stuff too. She'll like, I'll give her one of my books to read and she'll read it and she'll go, I hope you're not expecting an award for this one.
Yeah, you prove her wrong with every book.
No,
so the ball's in your court. Yeah, I think
my family's kind of mean to me. So they think about it.
Yeah, that's the title of this interview. I think my family is mean to me. I think that should be the YouTube headline. I'm sure they're super proud of you. Yeah.
Yeah.
You bust the chops with people that you love, right? That you're closest to.
Yeah, that's true too. That's
like
true
the way we bust Tim's chops all the time.
Yeah.
It's because you love the guy. Yeah.
Yeah, Shadow Hero was fun. That was really fun to do. I ended up doing it actually in between the 2 volumes of Bach's and Saints because Bach's and Saints was just so heavy. It just felt so heavy, right? And
such a relief to,
and Shadow Hero is a little lighter.
Yeah.
So Shadow Hero is actually the main character's Green Turtle. He's not my character. I teamed up with a guy named Sunny Lou, who's an amazing artist.
Yes.
So he did the art and I did the writing. Neither of us made up Shadow Hero, or neither of us made up Green Turtle, who is this character from the 1940s. He might be the first Asian American superhero. I think you sent. Did you send me the link?
It was me.
You sent me the link.
There's a theme going on.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. My whole career is because of Derek.
Yeah, I sent you because when I first read it, I immediately
really
thought
weird.
of it. I was
really
like,
weird.
"Oh, Gene's gonna love this."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you sent me that link, and I was like, it's just so weird.
It was so bizarre.
So
yeah.
the Green Turtle was created by a guy named Chu Hing, right? Who was one of the first Asian Americans working in the American comic book industry. Green Turtle's a terrible character. Terrible. He's like a Batman ripoff.
Right.
He has a turtle cape. He operates out of a turtle cave.
He has a weird costume. He has no shirt.
He has a terrible costume.
Yeah, he just has underwear.
He just
and a
has
cape,
underwear.
Right?
And a cape. Yeah.
I'm actually surprised you guys didn't change that part when you did.
No, you gotta keep it.
Okay.
You gotta keep that. Yeah. So in the original, he only lasted for 5 issues of this series called Blazing Comics.
Right.
And the rumor is that Chu Hing wanted him to be a Chinese American, but his publishers wouldn't let him do it. So Chu reacts in this really
Passive
aggressive way. Yeah, where he always has the Green Turtle facing away from you, so you almost never see his face. You only see him once. You only see his face once.
And how did he resolve that problem then?
I don't know. I mean,
He didn't
draw
his face as being Asian. When it
looks Asian. It
Oh,
looked Asian to
it
me.
does. Okay.
It looked Asian to me.
Yeah.
But the rumor is that he did that so that he could imagine his character as he intended.
Right. Yeah, it's
And
probably
I just thought
true.
it was-
I mean, I'm sure
Yeah.
you can't think of a single Asian superhero in that time.
No.
Yeah.
No.
The only Asian characters are villains.
Yeah,
Very stereotypical.
That's right.
Villains.
They're all like Yellow Peril villains.
Exactly. Yeah. Yellow Claw.
Yeah.
Or, so I completely believe that that's probably what happened. Yeah.
Yeah. So he never tells us his secret origin story,
Yeah.
and he never even tells us his name, like his civilian name.
Right.
And that's what Sunny and I did. We
You filled out those
we
missing
filled out those
blanks.
pieces. That was the idea.
So do you know if he's already passed away by the time you guys started working on it? Do you know if his family read it or anything, or anybody related to the original?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we did some. There's a guy named Alex. What's his name? So he was in the comic book industry for a while. He did a lot of the logos for Marvel and DC Comics on their monthly series, and then he also just researches for fun. So he actually got in touch with his nephew. I think he doesn't have any kids. So she got married but never had any kids.
Oh,
he married
okay.
like a Swedish lady.
Oh,
I
interesting.
think. And I think they ended up living in Hawaii, I want to say.
Uh-huh.
He got in touch with his nephew and he gave him a copy of The Shadow Hero.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Did he ever respond?
No, he never responded.
Oh,
But,
okay.
I mean, they took a picture together. They seemed happy. I don't know.
Oh.
But
you
it was
mean...
Alex and him. Yeah.
Okay.
Alex Jing? I think his name is Alex Jing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Like, that you have that connection with this ancient comic, you know? And,
Yeah. I mean, and the comic itself is a public domain. So
Right.
That's why we were able to do it.
Yeah. I saw some cosplay at like Comic-Con or something.
Yeah. No, we hired somebody to cosplay.
Right. That's what it was. Yeah.
We hired somebody to cosplay.
Yeah.
But
I think I'm mixing it up with New Superman. I saw.
Oh
New
yeah,
Superman
there are new
cosplay.
Superman cosplayers too.
Yeah. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
And then another crazy notch in the belt of the Shadow Hero was included. Wasn't there a short comic of it included in a Panda Express?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, Panda Express. We got to know like a marketing director at Panda Express, and they wanted to do something for Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month.
Nice.
And they ended up publishing like a little giveaway comic.
It's like the Happy Meal toy kind of.
It's kind of like the Happy Meal toy.
Right.
It was fun.
That's
it was
amazing.
Too. It was really crazy too. Yeah, it was the first time they ever gave away something with their kids' meal.
Wow.
And they haven't done it ever since. So once again, we shut something down. You know.
Leave the audience wanting more. That's incredible. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah. How much free Panda Express food did you get during this time?
They gave me $100 gift certificate.
Seriously?
It was awesome. It wasn't a gift certificate. It was a card. It was a card.
Nice.
Yeah.
So
And
did you just...
I went there a lot. Yeah, I developed a taste for it.
Nice.
So you know what helped me develop a taste for it is when they stopped calling it Chinese food.
Yeah.
They started calling it American Chinese food, which it actually is.
Yeah. That's honest.
Yeah.
For sure. That's cool.
Yeah, I actually really like them.
I actually like Panda Express.
Yeah, I like the family that runs them, and once they were honest about what they were, I mean, they're like basically like me, right? They're like they're not. I'm not Chinese. I'm Chinese American. They're not Chinese food. They're American Chinese food.
Right. Did they? Is it a family-owned company? Like it's not public.
It's not public. It's
Okay.
a family-owned company.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Two immigrant parents.
Yeah.
Started the company.
Wow.
Worked their butts off.
Did you see this one BuzzFeed video where it's like
Yeah,
old Chinese people and young Chinese people trying Panda Express, and the younger kids were so snotty. They were so snotty.
Yeah.
Did you agree? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree. And then the parents were like, oh
yeah, they were just being honest.
Bad.
If it was bad, they said it was bad. If it was good, they thought it was good. But I felt like the kids before they even tried, they wanted to seem cool or something.
Yeah.
I don't know, or they just didn't want to seem like they thought it was.
I mean, I think you can't pass out Panda Express as Chinese food. I think you just can't.
But that wasn't the point of the video. It was just a taste test, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, my kids like it. My kids definitely like Panda Express.
I have to admit, I'm sure those are nice kids, but I want to smack them in that video. They were being such snots.
Yeah. See, we sound like old men now.
Get off my Panda Express lawn. Is there anything else you want to say about Green Turtle?
They made an action figure for him.
Oh, that's
still
right.
available.
Yeah, that's
I'm
awesome.
excited about
That was so
too.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you get one? Did you get one yourself?
Yeah. We have a couple at home.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Did you give one to your kids or anything?
Yeah, they played with one for a little while.
Oh, that's cool. They should have included the action figure in the Panda Express with the comic.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
Cool.
That would have been great.
It would probably a lot more expensive.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, probably. How amazing would it have been if there was a guy dressed as Green Turtle greeting people,
like and handing it out?
Yeah,
that would have been awesome.
A guy in his underwear, like at Panda Express, like handing out.
Chinese guy, really buff.
Yeah. Did you ever dress up as Green Turtle?
Never.
In any of the conventions?
No, I got a spider body. I can do that.
Right. That would have been amazing. I would have liked to see that.
No, you wouldn't have.
Superman thing didn't seem like it was the success that they were looking for, I guess.
Yeah, it was not.
Were
It was
not
not.
bad?
It was not. Like that whole so both the DC and Marvel universes will relaunch every now and then. Marvel does way more than DC does.
Yeah.
But that was a soft relaunch. It was called DCU, where they really try to change up all of their characters, especially their big three, especially Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. And I do think as a whole, at least numbers-wise, it was disappointing for them.
I see. If you could go back in time, would you still do it?
Go do the Superman project?
Superman gig?
I think so. I mean, if I were them, I wouldn't offer it to me. You know what I mean?
Wait, why?
Because I feel like, so I was working, Superman is a popular enough character that there are multiple books with him in it, and they all have to be coordinated, right? So they actually gave me the quote-unquote flagship title. They gave me the Superman title. And there was also Action Comics, Batman, Superman, and Superman, Wonder Woman at the time. So I think the dude who was writing Action Comics, Greg Pak, who'd been writing superhero comics for years, won a bunch of awards, he should have done the flagship, and I should have done one of the other ones. That's what I think. Because superhero comics, like even though I've been doing comics for forever, it's a different rhythm. Like the way the deadlines work, just the fact that you have this page constraint. Back then it was 22 pages, now it's 20.
Right.
It's really different from working on a graphic novel.
20 pages, that's not a lot.
No, it's crazy, right? Like you end up having to pare down so much, just to get it to fit in the 20-page constraint.
Just the bare essentials of a story.
Yeah, just the bare essentials. It's hard to make. It's not impossible, but it's trickier to make a moment dwell.
Yeah, that's true. It's kind of like doing an 11-minute show versus a 22-minute show.
Yeah, I'm sure. I have no idea, but I imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys are under constraint all the time, right? Even a 22-minute show, that's a constraint.
Yeah, that's true. And are there any differences between the Avatar books and the Superman books?
I think the pressures were different. I think that because Superman has just been around for way longer, that there's not one version, right? You're not trying to, like with Avatar, when I was working on Avatar, I was trying to stay true to the voice of the show. There's no one Superman voice. You know, he's gone through so many different eras. So no matter what take on Superman you choose, you're gonna piss somebody off because you're ignoring their favorite take.
Who did you piss off?
For Superman?
Yeah.
Well, the people that were most pissed off at me were Lois Lane fans.
Oh.
And I kind of feel like that was not my fault. I mean, this is gonna sound very self-serving, but like there were internal rules in DC at the time about how Clark and Lois should interact. Like at the time, they were very against Clark and Lois having romantic interest in each other.
What? I thought that was their whole thing.
That was their whole thing, and I think like New 52 was a relaunch that happened when 2012, 13, somewhere around there. So after the New 52 relaunch, Clark and Lois were no longer an item, and then Clark became interested in Wonder Woman and Diana. So Superman and Wonder Woman were a thing, and there's just this internal rule that's the alpha couple, right? You don't mess with the alpha couple. You can't introduce Lois as a love interest in any way. So Lois Lane fans would tweet at me and email me about how I was doing a terrible job writing her. I was just like, I don't know. I don't know what to say about that.
Because you weren't making them romantic because of that rule?
Well, there was that. There was also a decision was made that Superman's secret identity would be revealed, and that Lois Lane would be the one to reveal it.
How did you feel about that when they told you that was what the story had to be?
I mean, I think I was just freaked out in general. I was freaked out to be working for DC. I was freaked out to have tight monthly deadlines. I was freaked out because I didn't totally understand how that world worked. You know, because I'd always assumed that if you have like a 6-issue arc, you would map out all 6 issues, right? And then you would go. And at least at the time, that was not the way the Superman group was working. You would just kind of throw something out and then hope that it would go the right way. And that freaked me out. I was like really freaked out about it. And then approvals were coming really slow.
Why couldn't you map it out for 6 issues?
Because it wouldn't matter. Things would change. Like things would change all the time. Things would change after the issue was drawn. Things would change. You know, so it was like
for that particular issue, or for the next issue, things would change.
For that particular issue, I would have to rewrite dialogue. I would have to respond to notes that would ask me to rewrite dialogue for art that had already been drawn and colored.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it was just crazy. It was crazy. It's not like so. I've been working for DC for 3 years now, and thankfully, my experience that first year is not typical of my experience at DC.
Is it typical of other authors, or was it just totally atypical period?
I've talked to Greg. I've talked to Greg, and he says that it's not normally as crazy as that. It can sometimes get that crazy, but it's not normally as crazy as that.
You just happened to be thrown into it.
That was a particularly difficult time. So one of the things that happened shortly after I got there was they did the Rebirth, which was a soft reboot of the DC universe. And my experience of DC Comics after Rebirth was night and day from before.
I see.
Yeah.
So how did it improve? Why was it better?
Well, it seemed like there was a greater emphasis on story as opposed to gimmick. You know, I remember going to the DC offices, and Jeff Johns, who I actually really love. I think he really understands stories, and I think he really understands superheroes. So Jeff Johns was the one that masterminded the Rebirth initiative. I walked in for my meeting with him. He was meeting with all the writers who were working on all the different books that were part of Rebirth. And the first thing he asked me after I sat down was, all right, what's the story about? And that was not my experience of DC up to that point. You know?
You mean thematically what's it about?
Yes, like everything. How is the structure of the story going to hang together? You know, like we talked about it from a structural perspective, and that just hadn't happened to me before that.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
It's more like when you're talking to Mark or.
Yeah. It felt more familiar. It felt like I was talking to an editor. It felt similar to a conversation that I would have with like the Avatar folks. Or with the First Second folks.
I see. So with Avatar folks, it's a lot different, I guess.
Yeah, it was really different. The Avatar focus was really different.
It's more.
It was like I would submit an outline for the entire arc, and we would break it together. Sometimes I'd do multiple drafts, but it never felt like we were taking a detour all of a sudden. Whereas with DC, in that first year, that's what it felt like.
Okay.
Yeah. After that was actually a very different experience. After that, my experience at DC felt much more in line with my experiences everywhere else.
So doing New Superman, it was more like doing.
Yeah, doing New Superman was a lot of fun.
Okay.
Doing New Superman was a lot of fun.
So not only do you do every genre that's under the sun, you've also done educational comics with Secret Coders, right? Do you want to tell us about that?
Sure, that's something that I thought about for a long time because I taught high school computer science for 17 years.
Wow.
So I always wanted to take what I was doing in my classroom and put it into a graphic novel form, and that's what Secret Coders is. But Secret Coders is meant for a younger audience, though. So I was teaching high school kids. Secret Coders is meant for like, I don't know, 3rd, 4th, 5th graders around there.
Yeah.
And I got to team up with this guy named Mike Holmes, who's awesome.
Yeah.
He's super fast. He's like one of the fastest cartoonists I know, and he's also really, really good. He can draw. He's kind of like you. He can draw in any style that he wants.
Yeah. Except I'm about 10 times as slow.
You're slower. I gotta admit, you're slower. But he did a great job. He did a great job on those books.
I love the style.
We had originally started with 3. We had signed to do 3, and those 3 did well enough that they signed us to do 6.
Wow.
And now they're going to put it out as a box set, which I'm pretty excited about.
That's amazing.
But I wanted to try to, the whole point of that book was I want to try to balance narrative with education.
Yeah. If you haven't read it yet, you can actually just read it as a narrative, and it's really entertaining. But then peppered throughout, there are those lessons that you can learn.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so.
And the lessons progress the story, right?
Yeah, the idea is that they have to figure out things in code in order to move on.
It's funny because in comics and math don't seem to mix that much. Very rarely does it. Well,
Jason Shiga,
he's like the only one though, right?
Yeah, he might be the only one that does it
so
purely. Yeah, he does it so purely though.
Yeah. I thought it was just because I'm actually very math averse. The whole reason I went to art school is so that I wouldn't have to do math. And I completely enjoyed it.
Oh, that's great to hear.
Yeah, so if awesome. I can enjoy it, I feel like anybody can enjoy it, Yeah, you did a great job.
Well, thanks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, was any of the narrative part on that one based? Because most of your stories seem to kind of stem from your life in some way or another, right? Even if it's not directly.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely pieces. So in the first book, there's this scene where the main character's name is Hopper, and she actually spits on this bigger kid named Ennie, right? And Ennie gets really mad, but then he doesn't really do anything. He just walks away. That was based on something that I did when I was in high school.
You spat on someone?
Yeah, I was so now that I think about it, I was such an idiot. So we were in the locker room, right? We were in the locker room, and there's this dude. His name was Brian something. He was big. He's this big dude. He's a big blonde dude.
Yeah.
And he was not like one of the popular kids. He was he was kind of pudgy and I don't know. He was just a little awkward, right? But then he had this towel, and he was one bank of lockers over, and he would use this towel and he'd snap it, and it hit me in the head. It kind of hurt.
Oh, okay. Right? He deserved it then.
So he kept doing it,
worse.
and I told him to stop, and he wouldn't stop. And finally, I got up on a bench and I spat on his head. Right? Because I was so mad. I didn't even think about it. I just did it. Yeah. And then he walks around the bank of lockers. He's like a head taller than me.
Wow.
And he totally could have just beat me up.
Yeah.
But I think he knew
he was doing the wrong thing.
I think he knew he was doing the wrong thing. So we were just staring at each other, and I was waiting to get beat up, and he just walked away.
Oh wow.
And then after that, we were kind of friends.
That happens. Yeah, because then you gave him something for him to respect. In a way,
maybe
right?
by spitting on it. I don't know. So I put it in. It was basically that particular thing was something that actually happened to me.
Wow.
Or I shouldn't say happened to me. That I did when I was younger.
Were you ready to fight?
I think so. I mean, I would have gotten just creamed. He was so much bigger than me.
Really? But you're pretty tall. I mean, you're 6'2".
No, this was when I was freshman or sophomore. I was not that tall.
Okay.
I was really skinny.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I weighed 100 pounds.
Right.
This was really logically, it was a dumb thing to do, right?
No, I'm glad because he backed off. I mean, he respected you after that.
Yeah. I there's this other incident in high school. It's not even related to one of the comics where, I was a senior. We had gone to we did a senior trip. So I lived in the Bay Area, and we went to Santa Cruz where they have like a beach boardwalk with all these rides, and we did all these rides, and on the way home on the bus, there's this guy, another blonde kid. This kid was actually more popular though, and we didn't really even talk. His name was Dave something.
Okay.
But anyways, I had a girlfriend at the time, and we were sitting, on the bus talking, and then this guy just comes up and grabs our heads and pushes them really hard into each other, right? And then after that, we were like,
oh my gosh,
like just it hurt a lot. It really hurt a lot, right?
You could hear a crack, like just
yeah. And then people laughed, and then I think he felt bad, so he's like almost immediately started apologizing, and then I just said it's okay, even though it hurt a lot. I was like, it's okay. Why? I don't like that. That's like my big regret from high school. I think I should have hit him. I mean, it was like the very end of senior year. You know, we had gotten into colleges, and I wonder if I'd gotten into trouble if I like just hit him really as hard as I could in the face. Yeah. He could have beat me up. He could, like, I was super skinny, wow. But that was like now that I think about it, I feel bad for my girlfriend too. Yeah. I think she was kind of pissed off at me that I didn't do anything. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. What a jerk.
Yeah. But I should have just hit him as hard as I could. Even if it meant getting in trouble and possibly getting my college acceptance taken away. I think I should have hit him.
I bet you he would have left you alone after.
Yeah. I think I should have hit him as hard as I could. Yeah. Even though he had said sorry, I think I should have still hit him.
Yeah.
Because I could tell, like, when I turned to look at him, I could tell from his face that he was not happy with himself that he did that.
Maybe it's good that you didn't hit him then, because he actually had remorse.
Yeah, he could, but I still think I should have hit him. I think he probably would have felt better about himself. You know what I mean?
Really?
He would have felt like, I think I should have hit him.
Wow. So you think because he felt bad, if you punched him, he would have backed off and would have said sorry?
It would have felt like we were even to him. I think he felt bad, and I think he felt guilty about it afterwards. Yeah. I think he would have taken away some of the guilt if I hit him too.
Because
I think I just hit him.
I feel like maybe because he felt bad, if you punched him, it would have instigated him to fight you.
Maybe, you know, and I would have gotten creamed.
Yeah, maybe.
But it's like that whole it's like that whole 300 thing, right? Maybe it doesn't matter if you win the fight.
Yeah,
as long as you make
that's
them
true.
bleed. Yeah, this is such bad advice for kids. But I do think there is something about. I mean, maybe it's not even a physical
just
bleed.
about standing up.
Yeah, but there's something about, like, I think especially as like Asian American immigrants kids, out of all of the different demographics, we are the most picked on, right? Just statistically. Yeah. And then you just gotta stand up for yourself and make them bleed a little bit. Yeah, right? That's true. Do
you think that'll ever make it into a story?
Maybe, like that particular incident. Maybe.
You should.
Yeah.
Maybe that could be the origin of the romantic comedy.
Oh, yeah.
He's been holding on to. And then when he grows up, he has another girlfriend. Yeah. And then
he has a chance to redeem that.
Yeah. And then he gets creamed.
Yeah. And then he gets creamed. Yeah. So I mean, I feel like that's a constant theme in my life, right? Like struggling with standing up for myself or being courageous. Yeah.
Well, look at you now. Nobody's gonna pick on you now.
No, that's not true. That's not true. I mean, it's still like I'm still a timid cartoonist.
But you have spider body now. You're not skinny. You're not just skinny.
Yeah. I mean, I think nowadays it's just like I hang out with mostly people my age. Yeah. Everybody's too tired to fight.
Yeah, true. They'll only fight you on a message board.
Yeah, that's true. That's why I stay off of.
Right. Could you see this as a TV show?
Yeah, I think it'd be fun. I think it'd be fun to do it as a TV show. You know, I've always said that comics is like my first love, and anything else on top of that is just icing. You know, like if nothing ever happens, I'm still fine. I'm still happy.
Let me tell you what Gene actually said. So when I started doing films. Do you mind if I say
what did I say? I don't remember.
Okay, when I started doing films or animation and stuff, Gene was really incensed that I was not doing comics.
Yeah. And I still kind of feel bad about that.
Yeah.
Go on.
Yeah. But Gene told me, film is your mistress, but comics is your wife.
I stand by that.
And you said you can have multiple mistresses, but remember your wife is always comics.
That's right. I said. And you're still with your mistress. I mean, you basically divorced your wife and married your mistress. That's what you did.
I told you, I haven't divorced. I'm just cheating on her for a while. You don't know.
So that means you're going back? Are you going back at some point?
It might happen. You know, you never know.
All right. We'll see.
I still don't feel like I'm officially
out
of comics. Yeah, it's
really?
Just for this.
But you wrote that whole post about how you're quitting comics.
I did a post?
Yeah, with like a Yoda. Yoda graphic and stuff.
I love that. Do you remember the?
I don't remember what the Yoda graphic said. What did it say?
It was so great. It said, Actually, I wrote it. I made it up. It was drawing leads to dreams.
That's
dreams,
right. That's right.
Drawing leads to dreams. Dreams leads to comics. Comics leads to suffering.
That's right. That's right.
It's true, right?
I mean, sure.
Yeah.
But don't you think just art in general leads to suffering?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like, if you could choose to not be an artist, wouldn't it be so much better to not be an artist? You know what I mean?
Maybe a lot less stressful.
Yeah, like people, like I have friends who just have no inclination towards art, and
Yeah.
they have 9-to-5 jobs that they enjoy. They make a lot of money,
Well-
benefits, stability.
But you don't know if they enjoy their job. Right. At least we enjoy our job, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think they enjoy their jobs.
Really?
I think a lot of them do. Yeah, sure.
I don't think they have the kind of pride in their work that we do, though.
Maybe.
You know?
Maybe.
Yeah. Because once you
Yeah.
created something from nothing, from your own
Yeah,
brain,
there's a feeling there.
yeah, you put it out into the world.
But I think
like-
there's some people who don't necessarily want that.
Mhm. Yeah, that's true. They don't have that drive.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
true. They just want to travel or that kind of stuff
Yeah.
fulfills them. Yeah. Let's quit, Gene. What are we doing
But that's
with
the
our
thing
lives?
is that I feel like when you're in this, it's because there's a part of you that will not be satisfied if you don't do something like that.
Exactly. Yeah. Even
So
if you try.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you have to like constantly suffer. It's just part of your makeup to do that, right?
Yeah. Do you think that's tied in with your Catholicism at all?
Maybe.
Don't
The
they always say
suffering
like?
part?
Well, don't they always say Catholics are what is it like?
Sadomasochist?
Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
a little bit.
yeah.
Probably. I mean, it's definitely. I do think there's a connection between Catholicism and comics. You know, because there's so many Catholic churches, like especially the old school ones, that use pictures to tell stories. You know,
Yeah.
the same glass windows actually tell you a story.
Yeah, exactly. Those windows. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so there's something there.
Yeah. You were brainwashed from the beginning. You just didn't know. From
Yeah,
church.
sure I was. Yeah, I was predestined to
Yeah.
be a cartoonist.
You recently finished your run on New Superman as well,
Yeah.
amongst all your other works. What was that experience like?
That was super fun. I have to
Yeah.
say, so I did 10 issues on the main Superman title.
Right.
And that was not as fun. That was actually really
Yeah.
stressful. In part because I was just not used to writing a monthly series.
Yeah.
And also for other reasons. But for New Superman was really fun. I think
Yeah.
part of it was that the DC company was in a really different place, you know? So New Superman was part of something called Rebirth, which was a soft relaunch of the entire line.
Mm-hmm.
And it really felt like the company actually went through a rebirth. Like there was a sense of hope, and it felt like there was more creative elbow room. I really liked the editor that I worked on, Paul Kaminsky, that I worked on New Superman with.
Yeah.
And then they just it was great. So they asked me to create a Chinese Superman for them. We created this 17-year-old kid who gets some of Superman's powers, some of Clark Kent's powers, and becomes the new Superman of China.
So much fun. It's so much fun.
It was fun, and we got to make
Such
him
a
kind of
fun
a
story.
jerk.
Yeah.
And the story is we wanted to mirror, like, a lot of Chinese stories are about somebody kind of mastering themselves spiritually,
Right.
you know, and maturing in that way.
Yeah.
And that's what we wanted this to be about. So we started him off as a jerk, and he kind of has to master himself spiritually in order to become a hero.
Right. Yeah, it's such a great coming of age kind of story mixed in with a superhero. It kind of reminds me of the original Spider-Man a little bit. You know, because you know how he starts off kind of like a jerk, and then he has to become
he
a
was
better
selfish.
person.
Wanted to be a wrestler.
Yeah. Just
Yeah.
wanted to make money and stuff.
Yeah.
It's such a classic story. I also really loved all the side characters. There was like a Chinese Batman, Chinese
Yeah,
Superman,
they let me
like-
make Chinese Batman kind of chubby, which I was so happy about. There was a long discussion about that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So what was there? Why didn't they want you to do
I don't know. I think he's just not. He's not a
Superhero
typical looking superhero, right?
Yeah.
But in kung fu movies, there's almost always like this chubby dude.
Are you talking about like the Samuel Hung
Yeah, like the
character?
trope is that people laugh at him and then he just whoops butt.
Oh, right,
That's
right,
the trope.
right.
So that's what I wanted to do. I
see.
wanted like Chinese Superman to laugh at Chinese Batman, and the Chinese Batman just whoop him.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see. Yeah.
That's what we did.
That's so
It was
cool.
fun.
And then they formed like a Chinese Justice League as well.
Yeah, they
right?
formed a Chinese Justice League. So we wanted to play on the idea of Chinese knockoffs. Because if you look at Chinese culture now, in mainland China, there's a ton of American knockoffs, right? They are trying to start their own superhero universes.
Gotcha.
There are Chinese rappers. There's like a rapper that's considered the Chinese Eminem, you know? And at least in the beginning, they start off as imitations. They start off as knockoffs.
Yeah.
But then I would argue that if they keep progressing, that they're able to find something that's a little bit more authentic.
I see.
You know?
Sure. Yeah.
So I think the origin, like being a knockoff at the beginning, doesn't necessarily mean you end at the knockoff as a knockoff, and that's kind of what I want to play with too.
That's really cool.
So the Chinese Justice League is a knockoff at the beginning, but I'm hoping that by the end of the series they are their own thing. They feel like their own thing.
That's really cool, man. I mean, it's like how Japan was copying cars at first, but then they perfected cars, right? Yeah. That's really cool. I guess, and that's a really smart way to circumvent that problem of them just being knockoffs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Do you think people caught on to that?
People did call them knockoffs in the beginning,
right?
For sure,
but did they catch on to the
that's where
fact
they're supposed to be,
right? But did you actually complete that cycle of them thinking, oh, they're actually really cool, even though they started out?
So I did get some emails like that. I don't know if everybody thought that,
okay.
But I did get some emails that like.
Yeah, how is the reception from like the hardcore Superman and Batman fans? And
overall, I would say overall, I mean, it didn't have a crazy big readership. It had a very low readership, possibly the lowest in the entire line.
Wow.
Right, but I would say that the readers that we did have really liked the book.
Yeah, it seemed like it from the feedback. How did the Chinese people like it? Like Chinese?
I would hear from Chinese readers from time to time that would say it feels like a book that's written by somebody who's not living in China, and I'll be like, yeah, it is. I mean, what are you gonna do about that?
Do you think DC tried to get an actual Chinese writer at first?
I don't know.
Why wouldn't they get somebody that's an actual Chinese writer?
I don't know. I mean, they would have to translate the script. It'd just be a pain.
Yeah. Because when you first told me about taking on the project, the thing that for me seemed the most daunting was writing about a place you've never lived in.
Yeah.
Like that would terrify me. I don't know if I can.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I just decided I have to embrace it. Like you can still. I think as long as you're upfront about that, it's okay. It's sort of like how Rumble in the Bronx.
Yeah.
That Jackie Chan movie.
Yeah.
That is not LA. That's not America.
No, it's New York. It's supposed to be New York.
Yeah, but it's not America at all. Right?
Yeah.
No, there's no American city that is that graffitied.
Yeah.
But it still is a thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's still entertaining.
Yeah.
And it still shows. It's not authentic, but it still shows something.
Yeah. It's interesting, I guess, in the way like somebody else's perspective of that place.
Yeah, it still says something. It's like Lucky Luke too. You know, Lucky Luke. It's a French comic that's set in the American Wild West.
Oh, okay.
The same thing, right? It's like
or Blueberry. Yeah.
It is not authentic.
Yeah.
It's not written by somebody who's from the native culture, but there's still something.
When people, an outside person takes on that subject, you get this fresh take on it. Like the spaghetti westerns is a perfect example.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's still art. I would say it's still art, but you have to be upfront that.
Yeah. That you're not from.
You have to be upfront that it is what it is.
Yeah, totally.
So this is an American take on a superhero who is living in China.
Right. Yeah, that's so cool. Sorry, and you in the span of the run, you introduced a lot of other Asian cultures too, because of all the mythological gods.
Yeah,
right?
I mean I think the one that I was most surprised got through was the North Korean Aquaman.
That's amazing.
That they let us do that.
That's incredible.
Was super fun.
Do you think?
I mean, that was the last storyline too. I think they're just like,
oh really?
We're gonna end, so go ahead.
Do you think? If Kim Jong-il bombs us, you'll be safe because of your?
Well, I had actually wanted to put him in, and they wouldn't let me.
Oh, in the beginning, or
I wanted to put Kim Jong-il in the comic.
I see.
In the comic.
Wow, that would have been amazing.
They wouldn't let me.
DC wouldn't let you?
No, they wouldn't let me. That was fun, but for the better.
Why? Why would they let you?
I don't know.
Okay, well,
they didn't want to get hacked. I don't know.
I see. Okay. Sony.
Because so we use the general instead. There's a North Korean general. That's more of the bad guy.
Yeah.
But I originally wanted to use
Kim Jong-il. Oh man, that's crazy.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think it's probably for the best. They didn't let me.
You never know, I guess.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah. It's congratulations on that run, man.
Oh, thanks.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah.
It was fun to do. It was really fun to do. I'm really thankful for the. I got to work with Victor Bogdanovic, who ended up going to Action Comics.
Oh.
And he's like sort of a superstar now. He draws in like a little bit in the Greg Capullo style.
Oh, sure.
That
Yeah, I
style.
could see that in
Yeah.
his style. Yeah.
Yeah,
for
and
sure.
then Billy Tan, who's awesome, and then we ended with Brent Peoples, who's also kind of like I think he's kind of like a rising star in DC too.
Yeah, and I also love the covers by Bernard Chang.
Oh yeah,
Those covers
yeah,
are
yeah,
amazing.
he's so good.
It's-
Bernard Chang is so good.
He's amazing. And
Those dim sum covers, the dim
I
sum
was gonna
and the
say-
karaoke covers are so good.
I was gonna say, like, he adds just like that extra level of authenticity of an Asian
Yeah.
person drawing it. You know
Yeah,
that. I mean,
absolutely.
the other artist did a great job, but it's like he can bring in stuff that not only we, but like we can recognize as being so Asian. You
It's
know,
us,
like
yeah.
the dim sum.
And on the
karaoke.
first issue's cover, he like hit all these people. You know,
Yeah,
Some
that's
of them were
right.
Celebrities.
That's right.
So
that's
good.
right. Yeah,
he's
yeah. What
great.
were some of the people he hit?
He hit a mutual friend of ours named Brian Yang,
Okay.
who is
Okay.
an actor. He was on Hawaii Five-O. He
Okay.
was Charlie. I think he played a guy named Charlie.
Okay.
And then he hit Eddie Huang.
Mhm.
You know, the Fresh Off the Boat guy, and a few others.
That's right, Eddie
Yeah,
Huang. I remember that
yeah.
one. Yeah, yeah,
It's so good.
yeah. That's
Yeah,
great.
he's great. He's
Yeah.
great.
What are you working on right now?
So right now I'm doing a book about basketball. It's my first nonfiction graphic novel. It's about a high school team out of Oakland. It's the team of the school where I used to teach. They're called the Bishop O'Dowd Dragons. I got to know the head coach. His name is Lou Ritchie, and he's the first African-American head coach of the men's team at Bishop O'Dowd. He is actually an alum of the school, so he graduated in '89. And when he was a junior on the team, they went to this California State Championship. They played against a SoCal team called the Manual Arts Toilers, and they were down by 1 with 7 seconds left. So Lou was on the court, and he gets the ball. He puts it up at the buzzer, and it goes through the hoop. So the whole team is just freaking out. They're so happy that they won. He's hugging his coach, and then it comes over the loudspeaker that the refs have invalidated the call, or invalidated the shot. And they invalidated it because supposedly the center of Bishop O'Dowd had his hand on the rim as the ball was going through the hoop. Lou now, he's in his like mid-40s, and he actually gave me the tape. And he told me, he said, go look, watch this tape. You tell me if his hand was on the rim. And I have to say, I watched the tape. Hard to tell, very hard to tell. So he's still thinking about it. You know, it's been like decades, and he's still thinking about that shot.
But it's not clear cut.
It's not clear cut.
Okay.
It's not clear cut. Like the announcers of the game, it was a televised game, and the announcers of the games were like, "That's a really gutty call to do that to a bunch of high school kids, right?" So he eventually graduates from high school, graduates from O'Dowd. He goes to UCLA. He plays for John Wooden. Is that his name? Legendary basketball coach at UCLA. Coached Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and then he goes to Clemson, and he plays there. And then he gets injured. He fathers some kids. He has this really crazy birthday weekend where he gets it sounds like a joke, but it's not. I checked into it. He gets 3 women pregnant. One of them has twins, so he ends up having 4 kids. So he has to stop playing. Basically, he has to stop playing. He goes to work for like a tech startup. He works for Target for a little bit, and then he comes back. He comes back as an assistant coach to his old head coach, and then he becomes the head coach. So as an assistant coach and as a head coach, he has led 5 teams to the state championship, and he lost all 5 times. So as a player and as a coach, he was 0 of 6. He never got to redeem that old hurt from when he was in high school. The reason why I followed them for the season that I did, the 2014-2015 season, is that Lou had this kid on his team named Ivan Rabb. At the time, he was ESPN's top recruit for his class. Eventually, that spot went to Ben Simmons, but because he had Ivan on the team, that was supposedly his best chance at finally winning the California State Championship.
I see.
Yeah.
So the point of the book.
Well, the point of the book, I mean, I think the immediate driver of the book is Lou going to actually redeem this old hurt, right? But as I was working on it, it actually became more, I mean, I ended up as a character in the book, and I think it became more about stepping out in the face of uncertainty. One of the things that really struck me during this season of following this basketball team is the difference between basketball and comics. And I think one of the big differences is that with comics, you know, at the beginning of your narrative, you kind of know how it's going to end, right? Like with a superhero comic, with Superman, you kind of know that no matter what, Superman's going to win at the end. But with basketball, it is just not like that. At the beginning of that season, I had no idea whether or not they would even make it to the state championship. And at the beginning of every game, even if it feels mismatched, you know, even if it feels like one team is just way better than the other, you really have no idea who's actually going to win, right? Anything can happen. So there's a certain level of uncertainty that I think a basketball player has to deal with that a comic book writer doesn't.
I think that's why a lot of people prefer sports over narratives, actually. You know, a lot of people, they don't like movies, or especially comics. There's a lot of people who don't even ever pick up a comic. But I think it's because they always, I've heard somebody say this, like, somebody wrote this. I know somebody wrote this. You know what I mean? So they can't hook into it as much.
So they can't hook into it.
Yeah,
I can see that. I kind of get that. I kind of get where they're coming from with that.
But you weren't a fan of basketball before this story, right?
I was not really.
So after doing this book, now do you feel...
I do follow basketball now. I mean, I feel like I'm not an expert. I can't, you know, when I'm watching a game, I can't explain to you what's happening and why all the time. But I do understand why people find it so exciting. And I do get, like, I just also think that basketball occupies this very interesting place in American culture, you know, because it's sort of, it began as like the sport of the underdog. It began as almost like the sport of the losers, you know, like if you were not rich enough and established enough to be able to afford a field, you played basketball. And I just thought, like, as I looked into the sport, that became really interesting to me.
Did you feel like there was a parallel there to comics as well? Because comics is also a medium.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think about that, but you're right. You're right. It's all the same thing, right? The equipment that's required is just so easy to get. The bar is so low. There's really no gatekeepers.
It's true. You don't need a racket. You don't need a racket. You just need a ball from Kmart and you're good to go.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because the courts are everywhere.
Yeah, courts are everywhere. You can just use the bucket, like an actual bucket as the basket.
Yeah, in comics you just need typing paper and some pencils.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. Are there any other sports like that?
I mean, I've heard soccer's a little bit like that, right? Soccer's a little bit like that.
That's why it's so universal.
Yeah.
But even that, you do need that goal and a huge
You do
field.
need the goal. Yeah, the field is the tricky part.
Yeah.
I think fields are very expensive to maintain. You know?
You're right. So basketball is definitely the most accessible. Did you get first into basketball from Jeremy Lin, or where is the date?
I think I got interested in basketball because of Jeremy Lin for sure, and also because around the same time my kid, like my oldest, our son, started playing on his school's team, so it all kind of happened all at once, you know that, and then I think that, and then I read some books about basketball that led me to talking more to Lou, and then he invited me to go watch his games, and it all kind of.
So that happened after Jeremy.
Like I didn't become friends with Lou until after Jeremy Lin. Yeah, Jeremy Lin was definitely.
So he was sort of the spark.
He was a spark for sure. Him and my kid probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see.
Were the sparks.
Did you ever think he would do a comic about basketball?
No, heck no. If he had told me like 3 years ago, no, not 3 years ago. I was already working on this. Like if he had told me a year before I started that I was going to make a book about basketball, I wouldn't have believed you.
That's crazy because it's so much work.
It's so much work. Yeah, I can't believe I did it, or I'm doing it. It's so crazy. And the other thing is that because I didn't really grow up with the game, I feel really unsure about certain parts of the book. You know, whether the hands are right or whether, you know what I mean, like that kind of stuff. Whether the players are standing in the right spots on the court. I feel really uncertain about a lot of the book.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, are you a little bit afraid that maybe huge fans of basketball will pick it apart?
Yeah, I'm sure that'll happen. I was worried about that, so I did Boxers and Saints, which is about the Boxer Rebellion, and I was worried that experts in the Boxer Rebellion would call me on things that I got wrong, and that totally happened. So I expect that to happen, maybe even more with this book. Yeah.
Okay. Is there ever a time that you regret doing this book? Because it's a huge commitment.
I don't think I think about that anymore. Yeah, I feel like I gotta get it done. Yeah, I mean, I think I have a lot of anxiety about it, but I mean, that's sort of what I learned from basketball, right? It doesn't matter. Like I would watch these kids. The youngest kid on that team was 14, and we flew to Florida to play Ben Simmons' team on ESPN. And that kid actually, he wasn't a starter, but he was good enough that he actually got some time on the court. And he put up a shot on national TV surrounded by these giant 18-year-olds. It went in too. So it's just, I think there's just I came away feeling a deep admiration for these kids and their ability to just kind of do it, even in the face of fear, you know? Just stepping onto the court, even in the face of fear, they were able to do it.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think just as impressive, or maybe more impressive, is sometimes they would make these mistakes, these terrible mistakes, and the whole crowd would boo or they would gasp because the mistake was so bad. And it's not like they could stop the game and think about it. They just had to keep going, you know? They had to sort of put that mistake behind them and focus on what was happening in front of them. And I could see that, like, that's not easy for me as an adult to do. And so to watch like these 15, 16, 17-year-old kids do it is kind of crazy.
Wow. So it actually inspired you.
Yeah, it did. It just made me think that, you know, with this book specifically, even though I have anxiety about it, I still have to just get it done.
Altogether, how much of your life would you have poured into this book by the end?
Well, I started on it in 2014. I've been working on other projects all the way through, but it'll be like 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah, it'll be 5 years.
That's my first nonfiction.
Yeah, what's that like doing the nonfiction?
It's been really nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
Because there's this question, you know, like when you're drawing, you're automatically lying at a certain level because nothing actually looks the way you drew it. At least for me, because I have a relatively cartoony style.
Yeah.
So it just it brings up all sorts of questions about, you know, like how close should I stay to...
Yeah. And then, like, how do you differentiate them in a cartoony style?
Yeah,
like, all that
exactly,
stuff, right?
Exactly.
And this one must have been really tricky because you have your family in the book.
Yeah, my family's in the
Yeah.
book, and then the kids are minors. And
Did you have to approve everything with your wife, like, whenever she was on the page?
No,
or, like,
not
the
really.
kids? Oh, okay.
I show her, and she's like, "I wouldn't say that." I said, "You said something like that." You know, so especially the scenes with my wife.
Yeah.
I did take some liberties. So I would, like, with a lot of what happened with the players and the coaches, I recorded, and then I would transcribe the recordings, and then I would pull the dialogue out of those transcriptions.
Wow.
But with my wife, it would just be me recreating conversations.
Right.
That I remember
'cause you
us
didn't record
having,
them. Yeah.
because I didn't record them.
Right.
And then often it'd be like, it wouldn't be one conversation, right? It'd be like a summary of a bunch of conversations we had.
Got it.
So we're getting much older now. We don't have as many years
Yeah.
left. And this is going to be a lot of years devoted to this one book. Do you ever have regrets that this could have been used for something else?
I don't have regrets that it could have been used for something else. I don't think I have regrets. I think I have anxiety. Because I haven't done... Like, I've never done nonfiction. There was a lot of anxiety around that. I've never done anything about sports. I don't know a ton about sports. So there's a lot of anxiety about that. Yeah. I think I feel anxious more than regretful.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
I'm like really excited to see, like you might get a lot of new readers you've never had before, like people into sports, which would be...
Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be cool. Except they'd be like, you got the hands wrong here, you know? That's not the way that shot works.
Or they might think, this is really inspiring and amazing.
Yeah, we'll see. That's what I'm anxious about.
So I was going to go through some more general kind of questions.
Sure.
Yeah. What was it like being an answer in Jeopardy?
Oh.
That was insane. Yeah, if you guys didn't know, American-born Chinese question was on Jeopardy.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
crazy. I never watched that episode. I only saw the screenshots. Like, somebody sent me a screenshot.
Oh, really?
A friend sent me a screenshot. Yeah, that was
That's
crazy.
amazing.
That was really crazy.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, just you know, you'll go to your grave knowing that Alex Trebek
said the
American-born
title of
Chinese.
my
Yeah.
my book. Yeah.
Yeah, that was really cool. I mean, how many cartoonists can say that?
I don't know.
That's
That was
awesome.
nuts. Yeah, that was really nuts.
Do you think you could ever do Jeopardy?
No.
What about Celebrity Jeopardy?
No.
Even
no,
Celebrity
no,
Jeopardy?
No, I'm terrible at trivia games.
Okay.
Can you do it, you think?
Oh heck no! I can't. I feel like I do pack away a lot of information, but I can't call it up on command. I mean, as you've seen in this interview, I can barely talk normally. Call up the words. So, yeah, that would be brutal. Of all the Asian races, which is the best?
Well, I mean, that's not a question, right? That's not a question at all. It's,
Why is it not
it's
a question?
completely invalid question because of all the Asian races, which one is not Chinese? And the answer is none of them. They're all Chinese. They just don't admit it. You know what I mean?
I'm glad you came out and admitted that. That's great.
That's actually what. Yeah, I have older relatives that say that.
But they actually believe
so
it. Probably.
I'm married to a Korean. It's really like so like my when I was about to marry Teresa, I asked my parents if they felt weird that I was marrying a Korean, and they're like, they're basically Chinese.
Oh, man.
Which is like the worst thing to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Following up on that, why are Korean Americans so much better than Chinese Americans?
Like better at what? Like better at being angry?
Better at overall.
Better at eating spicy food?
That is true. We got you beat there. Right?
You guys are better at K-pop. Like pop music and bleaching your hair.
We better be good at better at K-pop. It's Korean pop music.
Yeah, you guys are better at that kind of stuff.
Bleaching our hair.
Yeah.
Plastic surgery.
Yeah,
right?
better at
We're
plastic
definitely
surgery.
superior there.
I think we're catching up on that.
Really?
I think so. So.
That's unfortunate. Okay. And no joke answers. This is a serious question.
No, it's
Of
not.
all your collaborators, who's the most handsome? And this has to be a serious answer. I will not take a joke answer.
Of all my collaborators, I feel like
That's the wrong answer.
most of my
There's only 3 words to
collaborators
this. Go ahead.
are kind of fugly. You know what I mean? Like in a really adorable and endearing way. But I think the vast majority of
I'll be
them
sure
are like,
to tell the women that drew the Avatar comics. that
Oh,
that
yeah,
you
except
said
for
this.
them, except
No,
for them. They're super
you
cute.
already put that out there. That was your answer.
yeah, most of them. I said most. I didn't say all. I said
I see.
most of them are kind of
I
fugly.
see. Which one of your 4 kids is your favorite?
My kids ask me this all the time.
Really?
They ask me that all the time. Yeah.
That's brutal. Do kids normally do
Yeah.
that?
I don't know. And they ask me when they're like just with me by myself, and they also ask me like as a group. Yeah.
Do you? Yeah, because that must be a lot of pressure when it's by themselves to say the one. That
No, I tell them. I say my
You have a favorite?
I say my favorite kid is Bradley. And they say, "Who's Bradley?"
Uh-huh.
And I said, "Oh, Bradley's our dinosaur child. He lives in our attic, and your mother gave birth to him shortly after Colby. So he's actually our true second child."
Shortly after Colby,
Yeah.
and he's just kept them in the basement.
Yeah, he lives in the attic because he doesn't. There's not enough room in our house for him because he's a dinosaur. Right?
And what do the kids say?
And they go, "No, he's not! There's a dinosaur in our attic!" And then I tell them, "You guys are jerks for never acknowledging your brother." That's what I tell them. I said,
That's
you guys should get punished for that.
That's a great answer.
Yeah.
That's how you got around the question?
Yeah, that's what I tell them.
Okay, but seriously, which one? Okay, a little bit more serious. Okay, if aliens came to Earth,
Okay.
and you could only give them one of your books to represent.
More serious. This is more serious?
This is more serious.
Alright.
That's how much it
It's
works.
got aliens in it, dude.
Well, okay, so whatever, and some people that don't know human beings came. You could only give them one of your books to represent you. Which one?
So what do these aliens look like? It depends on what they look like, right? Because you got to know your audience. Are they little green people? Are they cats? Like, what are they?
I see. That's a good. E.T. like the E.T. aliens.
Oh, E.T. So they're like really peaceful.
Oh wait, no, even better. Okay, the
Or
aliens
like a
are like
predator or what?
the aliens are Klingons.
The aliens are Klingons. Oh, if they're Klingons, I would give them Boxers and Saints.
Really?
Yeah, because it's all about war. You know what I mean? And
Klingons
they're like
are more. They're like very peaceful.
What?
Klingon. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm getting them confused with with Vulcans.
Dude, you're the
I
Trekkie.
know.
You're the
That's-
Trekkie.
I'm ashamed. I have to disavow my Trekkiness. I guess.
Yeah, Vulcans, I would give them secret coders.
Oh, that's perfect.
Clearly.
That's perfect. And Vulcans, you would give them Boxers Saints.
And Klingons, I would give Boxers and Saints.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you are like the worst Trekkie ever. You should turn in your card.
I think I'm just the worst interviewer. I can't keep my questions straight. Yeah, the irony is that I'm actually a Trekkie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very minor Trekkie. I only like The Next Generation, actually.
I heard true Trekkies like Deep Space Nine the best.
Really?
Is that true? No,
I disagree.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's Next Generation or nothing. What about a Predator?
A Predator?
From the
a Predator, I would throw all of my books at them. and
Just
then run away.
Yeah.
You can run away, right? Or the heaviest one. Maybe like one of those Avatar hardcover covers.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Box set of the Avatar ones. Yeah. Oh, which one was the easiest to pull off of all your works?
I don't know. I think for Secret Coders, once we got like the first volume was hard because we were building a world, but once that was all set up, the later ones took way less time. I wouldn't say they were easy, but
okay. What was the most fun to write or
fun
to draw?
But I really like doing the Monkey King parts of American Mortalities, just because I love that character.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Would you ever want to do another book with the Monkey King?
Yeah, I think so. I think it'd be fun. I gotta figure it out.
Would you ever want to do the Journey to the West?
No, I would never want to do a
that.
straight adaptation.
Okay,
No.
I see.
Because there's so many good ones out there.
Yeah,
you know,
there's a
like what's
lot.
the point?
Monkey King's so cool.
Yeah, he really is.
I love his power set.
I know, right?
His power
The
set's
power
so
set's
insane.
awesome. Yeah, his weapon is awesome.
And he's a punk.
And he's like a kind of a jerk.
Yeah.
All of it is awesome.
He's such a great character.
Yeah.
So classic. If there's, is there anything you would do differently in any of your books if you wrote or drew any of them now, as opposed to when you made them originally? Any story point, particular scene, any particular drawing?
Yeah, for American there are plenty of drawings that I wish I could redraw, like almost all of them. But for American Mortalities, I do wish I had drawn Cousin Chinky even more monstrous.
Wow.
I don't feel
is
like
that even possible?
I don't feel like I exaggerated him enough.
Really?
Yeah, every now and then I get somebody coming up to me and go, "Oh, he's kind of cute. Do you have like a T-shirt with it?"
Yeah, he's drawn kind of in a cute style.
Yeah,
your style is naturally cute.
I shouldn't have made him have a circular head. I should have made him have like a more angular head.
You should have drawn him like those 40s, like
I should
it's
have.
like really like
pointy,
super
super pointy.
Yeah, and like actually, it'd be cool if you drew him like not like your style. That wasn't the style of the rest of the book, so it's even more.
Yeah,
sticks
that's
out.
not regret. Yeah,
I see. Okay,
that's
really interesting. Anything else in any of your other books?
I mean, like I said, all these drawings.
The drawings are great. Don't worry about the drawings.
I would rather redo. I wish I could redo the drawings.
The drawings are great.
I don't know. I mean, like I said, I don't like reading my old stuff, so I'm sure if I read it, I would come up with all sorts of stuff
So
I want to change.
Should I assume you're more comfortable on the writing side than the drawing side, from what you're saying?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I think I'm comfortable making comics. Like, if I just had to write prose, I don't feel comfortable.
And if you just had to do art?
Yeah, I wouldn't feel comfortable either. I think I feel most comfortable doing both.
But did you formally learn either craft?
I mean, I got a minor in creative writing in college,
So
which was helpful.
You did actually study more.
Yeah, and then I did.
Writing,
I did a bunch of community art college classes.
Oh,
community
you did. So you
community college art classes. Yeah.
Okay, I see.
So, but I never got a degree in it or anything.
Gotcha. Okay. I took all my writing classes in community college.
Oh,
I kind of flipped when I
Yeah.
went to art school.
But they're super helpful though, right?
Oh,
Don't you
I
think?
wouldn't be the writer I am today.
Yeah.
You know,
community college is
Super
great.
Unleaded was written in a class.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I knew that.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. And I think
Yeah, I
even
remember
pulling
that.
some of those
Yeah.
other stories are from that class.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was such a great class. I feel like I was a better writer then, to be honest.
No, I'm sure that's not true.
Okay, this might be a little touchy. I don't know if you want to answer this. You don't have to. What's your opinion of Stan Lee?
I like Stan Lee. I like Stan Lee a lot.
Okay, because there is a lot of controversy in the comics world.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I know. I mean,
I'm a fan. I'm a fan personally.
Yeah,
So,
I do think that.
I think we're in the minority in the indie comics world.
Yeah, maybe in the indie comics. Even after his death, you think? You don't
No,
think
it's
some of
definitely
that-
softened, which makes me mad because they've been crapping on him his whole life, and then now that he's passed away, they're being nice, which kind of makes me mad.
I mean, I think there was a genius to him, right? I do think that because he was sort of a showman and a salesman, that maybe he took or he was given more credit than he deserved.
Yeah,
I could see that.
Yeah,
but at the same time, it's not like he contributed something vital.
Yeah.
You know?
The way I see him is sort of like Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs didn't actually code anything. He didn't actually.
Yeah.
But without him, Apple wouldn't exist.
There's no.
All those. Nobody
exactly.
would have. What's the word? instigated, but that's not the right word. Like furnished, nourished. What am I looking for?
Yeah, I mean, it's same with Disney, right? Same thing. Same
Yeah,
thing.
it's the same with Disney.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
kind of see him in that sort of camp.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Although I do think that Stanley was probably more creative than Disney.
Yeah.
He actually, I mean, those stories were his, right?
Yeah.
So I think some of them.
Disney was more like an art director.
Yeah, Disney was
Yeah.
a really, really good
Yeah.
art director, whereas Stanley did do some of the writing. Right?
Although a lot of people would argue with you about that.
Oh,
But
because
I'm
they
sure he
think
did, though.
Jack
like Jack Kirby and Ditko did. Even some of the dialogue, they think they would write on the margins, and then Steve Lee would let them in. But I don't think that's true.
Yeah.
I think he definitely did the dialogue for sure.
Yeah, I mean, maybe all that's true, but he still contributed something vital, right?
Yeah,
It wouldn't have happened without him.
Exactly. He's a vital cog in
Yeah.
that engine. Were you bummed out when you heard about his passing?
To be honest, I mean, it's sad, but I felt like the news coming out about Stan Lee over the last year and a half was really sad too, you know? So there's
Super
a certain
sad.
amount of
That was
certain
more
amount
sad.
of relief that came, I think.
Like people were pecking at him like vultures.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so depressing.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Yeah. Are you looking forward to the live action adaptation of Avatar's Last Airbender?
I am. I heard they're having an all Asian Inuit cast, right?
As it should be.
Yeah,
And it's made by the creators
Yeah,
themselves.
it's made by the creators themselves.
Yeah,
I think it'll be awesome.
Have you talked to them since they announced
I
it?
just bumped into one
Oh.
of them yesterday.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
just
awesome.
randomly.
Oh, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah,
Which
we
one?
had like a Mike.
Awesome.
Yeah, who I've probably spoken with more
Because of the
between
writing.
the two of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
What,
but
did
they're
you guys
both
talk
awesome
about it
guys.
at all? Or like...
I mean, just barely.
Okay.
Barely. He seems like he's having fun.
All right, time for the speed round. You ready, Gene?
Yes.
These are just simple yes or no, or either or answers.
Okay.
Superman or Batman?
Superman.
Batman or Moon Knight?
Oh, Moon Knight.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, okay. Thanos or Darkseid?
Dark Side. He's the original.
Correct answer. Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars.
Why Star Wars and not Star Trek?
Why Star Wars? Yeah. Well, I would say that I did lose some of my love of Star Wars after episode 1, 2, and 3.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I do think... So when I think of Star Wars, I don't think of those three.
Okay.
But I do think there's... I mean, I like Star Trek a lot. I think Star Trek is well constructed. It's probably... I don't know. I haven't looked into it or anything, but it seems like it's more logical, right?
Star Wars?
No, Star Trek.
Star Trek is way more logical.
Right?
It uses like real science.
Yeah, whereas Star Wars, there's like a mystical element to Star Wars that I like.
Right.
It's
right.
more like it's almost like a cross between science fiction and not even science fiction. It's a cross
science
between,
fantasy.
Yeah, it's space opera.
Yeah.
Right. It's
exactly.
space opera and fantasy, which I just like better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Let's see. Do you feel like the Force has anything to do with it? Does
Maybe
the spiritual
maybe.
elements?
Yeah, I like that. I like that piece.
Maybe that's why I like Star Trek better.
Yeah, because you don't like the Force.
No,
I don't like that
the
they try to
Force.
explain it though with those midichlorians.
That's
and
what ruined the
so
Force.
Stupid.
Yeah, it was so
God,
dumb.
it was terrible.
I was hoping they would write it out somehow.
But they can't.
John Pham had a brilliant idea, which was what if they just wrote it in that Qui-Gon Jinn was just a crazy guy, and he's the only one that believes it because he's the only one that talks about it.
Oh, good.
Right? He's just like a crazy homeless guy, kind of. You know?
That's good.
Yeah,
That's
right?
so stupid. What a terrible thing to do.
I know. It's just ruined everything.
Yeah.
But you can't even get mad because it's the original
I
creator.
know. Oh.
Yeah. Marvel or DC?
Well, I have to go DC now.
What about when you were a kid?
When I was a kid, it was clearly Marvel. DC
Really?
was stupid. You don't think so?
No, I'm only asking because you started reading comics with DC.
I know, but
Yeah.
Marvel was so much cooler. Although I would say that the edgy stuff at DC was definitely edgier, right?
Right.
Like DC seemed like most of it
Yeah,
just
they
felt
had
really hokey to
Watchmen.
me. Yeah, but they had Watchmen, they had Dark Knight. I love the Justice League
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we got off from the...
But I was definitely more Marvel.
yeah.
I was definitely more Marvel when I was a kid.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think all of us were really. Our
Yeah,
generation.
right, yeah.
Yeah. Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings?
Lord of the Rings. I like Harry Potter a lot too, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I feel like maybe that's because Harry Potter wouldn't exist without Lord of the Rings. Although I guess you could say that about Marvel and DC. Marvel wouldn't exist without the DC.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's just more... I think we're just old.
Yeah,
Right?
that might be it too. My
Yeah,
kids
yeah.
love Harry Potter. I mean, I
Yeah.
love Harry Potter. I think it's great.
Yeah. I love Harry Potter.
It's a great franchise.
I think Harry Potter's a great world. I'm not a huge fan of the character Harry Potter. That's why I guess I don't like it as much as Lord of the Rings, but that's just me, I guess. Rice or bread?
Rice?
Rice or noodles?
Probably noodles.
Really?
Especially soup noodles.
Oh, okay.
I mean, not fried noodles, but soup noodles. I love soup noodles.
Okay, gotcha.
So good.
I love soup noodles as well. Chow mein or japchae? Japchae is a Korean noodle dish.
They're the same thing.
They're not the same thing.
Thing, bro.
They're not the same thing.
It's just that you guys took chow mein and gave it a different name.
Oh my god. Japchae is so much more tastier. It's so much more savory.
Come on. Let's be real.
The noodles are clear. That's a big difference.
Yeah, I guess so. They're see-through.
Yeah, exactly.
Make them better.
I want to try one last thing. This might be a complete disaster.
We can try it.
So I wanted to know, have you ever played this word association game?
No.
Where basically we just try to say the same word. We try to take the least amount of turns to say the same word at the exact same time.
What? All right.
So I'll say 1, 2, 3. You just say any word that comes into your mind. Any word.
Okay.
And I'll say any word that comes into my mind.
And then we try to eventually
next
get to
round,
the same one.
We try to look into each other's minds and like, what is the commonality between those two words?
Oh, okay.
So it's almost like I'm trying to think what you would think is the commonality,
I
and you're doing the same thing.
I
with
see.
me.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. 1, 2, 3. Computer. Bananas. Computer.
Okay.
Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Apple.
Yes.
That's too easy. That's too easy. That's too easy. All right.
That was amazing. Do you know how rare it is to get it in 2 turns?
Really?
Yeah, it's really hard.
Well.
Wow.
We've been friends for a long time, dude.
That is
We've been friends longer than
incredible.
a lot of people have been alive.
That's incredible. Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
Do you know what a movie is?
Right.
A movie is like a big novel that has no chapter breaks. So you never know when you can stop.
You know the TV's not going to shoot you if you stop.
I
in the
know,
middle
but it
of a
just
movie.
feels weird.
Okay.
I want you to tell me when I can stop.
What? That's so funny. What do you like? You should live in a communist country then, I guess.